We took an actual literal injection before we worked out today. Can somebody get really great results, performance enhancement wise, without getting into the PEDs that are banned?
You can burn fat faster. We don't need to do this dumb that everybody thinks we have to do. You don't need to kill yourself.
You know a little something about Kratom. What are some things that people should look out for?
Cool show.
Yeah,
So I'll just
get some flannel shirts, have it unbuttoned, get a little hair out.
What if you shave your chest?
You shave your chest too?
Oh yeah, dude. I shave everything.
Shave everything. Let's go.
You guys
except
ever
for the face, you know.
You guys ever shave each other?
It's the most manly way to go. Is
Not
no.
yet. Not
You're
yet.
getting there. You'll have your day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Andrew,
Be
the
patient.
thumbnail you made on the last episode, like, isn't it perfect in terms of the beards?
Power bears we got going here.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't know what the reference is there, but
We used
actually,
maybe
confession
find
time. The last time we were on the podcast in Nsima, you brought up soaking, and I just laughed through it because I had no idea what it was. And after that, I had to ask Joe. I was like, "Dude, what's soaking?" And I just like laughed. I'm like, "Oh yeah, soaking." It's
Wait, I don't remember.
Mormon soaking.
Because he was raised Mormon, and we were talking
Like, were
about
you soaking?
the
I'm like-
Mormon loophole.
So when you said soaking, I was like
Now
baptism
I
or
feel embarrassed. I don't know what soaking
I
is.
have.
Oh my
I'm
God.
I'm so
Thank
lost.
you. Thank you for knowing.
Urban Dictionary. It might be another word. I'm pretty sure it's soaking though.
Okay,
Just-
Mark.
No,
here you
it's
go.
soaking.
Here you
It's
go.
definitely
It's soaking?
Yeah.
Vagina, penis sits, doesn't do anything. Okay, soaks.
There's no movement.
Loophole.
So it doesn't
Wow.
count.
because there's like, as a more, you're not allowed to like, have premarital sex, right?
Yeah, well, you're really not allowed to do like anything.
Yeah.
It's pretty freaking funny.
you just
This is
sit
why.
there.
This is why we've denounced religion on this show.
If you think about it, it's like the most intimate way though. You just,
You just sit
soak
and you
in
hang
it.
out.
No.
This is marinating.
Hang out right there,
Yeah,
Marinate.
this is nice.
right at the doorstep.
Oh, that's weird. I just got a coughing attack.
Don't breathe. That's a great way to start things, Jake.
Oh gosh.
It was all fine until my girlfriend sneezed. Oh God!
Speaking of soaking, you have a supplement coming out. That you have a bunch of supplements,
Yeah.
and one of them addresses the ladies, which normally the sex pills that you see at the gas station are all for dudes. It's all like boner pills or whatever, right? But you're making a supplement for the ladies.
Yeah, so we have a couple out now, and then we're kind of coming out with a few here soon. But yep, we have two that are going to be for women and two for men. One of the ones for female, we're going to call it Aphrodite, is going to kind of move towards that female sexuality. Yeah. No one's really tried to attack it.
Awesome. Let's get these ladies charged up a bit, right?
Yeah. Yep. Mark was already talking about putting in his wife's oatmeal. It's kind of messed up, but
Yeah, why not,
We'll
right?
put it
Sprinkle a little bit of that in there.
yeah.
What she doesn't know doesn't hurt her. So
Yeah, but we actually kind of want to try to turn them into like RTDs or like a little, like 5-hour energy too. So it's like you're always packed and loaded, ready to go.
What's in it?
Well, there's a couple things in it, but none of the ingredients will probably super stand out because what you're trying to do is actually get the right metabolism in certain parts of the brain and the right physiology going to put you in the mood, right? So there's not like one single ingredient that's like, bam, this is gonna.
Fuck, man, women are complicated.
Yeah, exactly. It really is though. But that's kind of the whole idea of all the products is like these things that really haven't been attacked. We're trying to go after them. So like even things like kind of mimicking like an Adderall or something, right? It's like, hey, I have to come in, I have to focus. Like I need to be like I need to speak really well today at like a presentation or something, but I'm like nervous, I'm not in the mood, whatever. It's like, bam, here's your little supplement you can take, be ready to go. Another one for the men we're doing is like we're calling it Zen. And it's going to be like men have a really hard time relaxing. We're kind of talking about this, like especially with mindfulness and whatnot. And it's like, hey, I'm done with work, kind of got to shut down. These are things that, you'll be able to take like, every day or just acutely as needed. But yeah, kind of just like a new line of supplementation.
Yeah, you guys are kind of finding the, I guess you're finding like the optimal way to do all kinds of different things. And the way we started out today's workout was unconventional.
Mm-hmm.
what was in that shot that we took. We took an actual literal injection before we worked out today.
Yeah.
You guys.
Yeah.
I wasn't part of this workout.
Oh,
Right,
no,
yeah,
I
right,
haven't
right,
seen
right.
it.
Yeah.
But you would still be natty.
Yeah, it's still natural.
Is it carnitine?
Yeah, carnitine and choline.
I still need to do
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's really cool. A little carnitine, a little choline.
And what does that do?
Well, you know, just kind of depends on the situation, but
And the timing, like everything else, but
yeah, absolutely. No, a little bit of carnitine injection will give you a little bit of a norepi bump. It's going to bias you towards using a little bit more fatty acids during your training too. Kind of what I like to call opening a creatine window, like becoming a little less glycolytic, you know, during the training. And then the choline's just going to give you, you know, that acetylcholine, you know, spinal stuff is just going to help you like squeeze harder and be able to kind of give you a little extra like oomph. But we call it Nectar. But a little bit of Nectar and like a little bit of Noopept really helps you focus. Really cool combination to take. So lots of ways to take it.
Yeah, what's Noopept?
it's what would it's a nootropic,
Yep.
right? Yeah, I don't know like what an actual compound is, but it's just like essentially pairing it with something like carnitine and choline. It's like we talked about at the beginning of the workout, where it's like people get into these habits of like, oh, I need my caffeine to wake up. Oh, I need my pre-workout to wake up. But it's like if you understand what the carnitine, what the choline is actually doing, and then take something like Noopept, which is going to basically like just increase, like you can explain it better. But
Yeah,
it just,
so like Noopept, I think the best way to think of Noopept very succinctly is it's going to lower the cost of LTP. So being able to make long-term potentiation, like make these, like if you're working on a skill, you're working on, maybe it could even be something like homework, riding a bike, like literally anything you're trying to do that's new, it's going to lower the cost of this long-term potentiation.
and that's like the dumbed down way that I was gonna say it. It's like it can increase or theoretically increase like the rate at which you can like learn something or acquire a new skill. So
That's
like
amazing.
So like you guys saw, like Mark, we were talking about my deadlift during the session, how it was such a new approach for me, and like just learning how to sumo correctly and being able to hold on to stuff correctly since I had all those nerve injuries and whatnot, like using the carnitines, the cholines, and the Noopeps to actually apply it in a in that context to learn these new techniques and apply them and like cause this change that normally would take years to happen. It basically increases your ability to have that athletic intuition that we were talking about. You can pick up on something quicker if you focus on it and if you approach it with a great deal of intent, like we're all trying to do.
Are these like category of supplements? Are they all stimulating the brain, the choline and the
No, I wouldn't.
Noopept and-
I guess the carnitine choline is a mild stimulant. Like you wouldn't want to take it right before bed. Like it's probably going to keep you awake. But Noopept, no, not really a stimulant at all. It's not going to like all of a sudden make you want to go do something or whatever. You'll feel it, but you'll feel.
I guess I used the wrong word. I didn't mean stimulate the brain. I just meant like, is that where things are happening? Is mainly in the brain?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Almost mostly in the brain. Yeah.
Question too, like you mentioned, you don't want to take before bed. So what if somebody's using this before an evening workout? Is that something that like would keep you revved up post workout, or is there like a time you want to pay attention to?
No, that's a good question, because if I were going to be training at night, I would lean away from any caffeine and I would just do like Nectar. And that's probably all I would do. This Nectar is what we call the carnitine choline. It's the actual product that, you know, we buy. But that's what I would lean into, because if you're taking a caffeine, it's like, cool, it's going to, it's going to alter the adenosine in your brain. It's literally going to keep you up, make your brain think it's earlier than it is. So, you get done with training, it's like, I'm still awake, you know, but you won't quite get that with the carnitine choline. It's not going to alter adenosine or anything. It's not a dopamine reuptake inhibitor as well. So it's not like going to just flood your your brain with like catecholamines and just like keep you wired.
Does the presence of calories make a difference? Like if you ate right beforehand, or was
Yep, absolutely. So there's actually a pretty cool study. You can probably find it just by looking up. I think it's 80 grams of carb. It's like 80 grams carbohydrates with carnitine. I'll find it for you guys. But anyway, it's like you actually get this different threshold with carnitine based on what you have eaten. So once you pass this mark of like 80 grams of carbs and take it, you actually start biasing. This drug actually becomes a little bit different. So 80 grams of carbs plus, you get this pretty cool effect where it's pretty hard to get hypoxic now. So like if you're going to go in and train, you're trying to get a whole bunch of work done, you're going to start paying a lot of this debt this acute hypoxia debt via fatty acids, and and you get you're not paying near as much with glucose. But if it's less, we're just going to start to kind of like bias a little bit more towards fatty acids, but it's not quite the same effect.
Interesting. How about, and I don't think L-carnitine or choline injectable is illegal in almost any type of competition. So if somebody were to use this like before powerlifting meet or jiu-jitsu competition, would it be something that could increase performance? Or is it something that if you're doing something cardio-based like jiu-jitsu, would it make you gas out more? Or like gas out quicker?
No, that's a really good question. In just about every setting you can think of, it's going to help you gas out less.
Okay.
It's a really cool thing to take. Absolutely legal in literally every sport. Like,
Am I way off by saying maybe it kind of almost puts you fat adapted a little bit?
a little bit,
That's
yeah.
kind of what I was going to say. It's like, because if you think about terms and like, think about the energy systems as a whole, it's like going back to like high school biology or chemistry or whatever, I don't even know what it would be called, but it's like you think about like the first energy system, like speed, power, second energy system, carbohydrate metabolism, like a little bit longer, and then fatty acid metabolism where it's like super long endurance, marathon running, whatever. You think about all of the energy systems in like vacuums, but we're not like closed systems, humans that are doing things. Like they're all working at the same time. So by getting a little bit more like you said, like fat adapted, or just biasing towards using like your fatty acid metabolism as your form of energy source, it just lets you deplete that first and then lean into, when that is gone, then it's this energy system, the glycolytic side, and then even like the stored ATP and whatnot. So it doesn't, like, I wouldn't say that it increases like the capacity of your gas tank, but it like increases the efficiency at which you use the gas that you have.
Would this
Kind of.
potentially help somebody with like higher triglycerides?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, it might help you utilize that as energy?
Because what you got to think about is like when you have this lipolytic effect, you get this when you're releasing fat, right? Fat goes into the bloodstream. You have a little protein called albumin that is kind of like shuttling it through the bloodstream. It goes to whatever cell that needs the energy, and it goes to this little carnitine shuttle system, right? And so you're absolutely getting to actually beta oxidize is the term, oxidize this fatty acid a little bit more efficiently.
Did you feel anything when you took this today? This is your first time taking.
I haven't noticed necessarily feeling anything when taking like carnitine or choline. I haven't like acutely noticed anything during like training. But it does. One thing I did notice is it does seem to over time, not in like one dosage, but it does seem to over time make me a little bit leaner, or at least appear a little bit leaner. I know everyone's probably like, I'm gonna get that. I think it really does. So I think some of the information of carnitine like liberating fat, I think makes a lot of sense.
And think about like, this is when like the stuff that a lot of people these days look at as like bro science. This is where it actually isn't bro science. It's where you can like use the timing and the use of like external supplements, like non-androgenic PEDs, like carnitines, cholines, growth hormones, stuff like that, to actually like put you in a position where you can burn fat faster. Because like as a natural competitor, you've probably heard a million times over, like, oh, fasted cardio doesn't actually like do much more. And it's like, no, not as a whole, but if you introduce something like a carnitine and choline with a growth hormone to both liberate more fatty acids quicker and then utilize those fatty acids quicker, you can burn fat faster in that particular context.
Wait, did you just toss in growth hormone though?
Yeah. Well, you're not for you, but as a whole,
It's just saying, like, it's really hard to get caught using growth hormone.
It is.
Okay.
But shush. But yeah.
But the only thing growth hormone's doing in that setting is literally, so the second that you inject growth hormone, it does cause lipolysis, right? So that it's just like and normally what we'll have to do that is epinephrine or some kind of like sympathetic based ligand, right? Some kind of like something. So let's say it's epinephrine. So now epinephrine did not have to do that, right? Growth hormone did. So now we have a little bit less cost of lipolysis, if that makes sense.
And Nsima, we were talking about earlier about like the way that I did my water cut differently for this past meet prep. I was taking AM doses of growth hormone followed by like extended walks for that lipolysis effect, paired with all of the leaning into the parasympathetic nervous system state by staying relaxed the whole time. So I wasn't having any of those catecholamine dumps where it's like I'm getting too excited, I'm getting too sympathetic. So I stayed down all week and maximized the rate at which any lipolysis was happening and that whole hypothalamic route to drop additional water weight. So
Yeah, let's dive deeper into this water cut. I've found it really fascinating. You were talking about using some cold therapy.
Yeah, so I guess I'll kick that off. But like,
it was your idea, so
Yeah, what, and also maybe just tell us how much weight we're dealing with for the weight cut and the specifics of cutting for a powerlifting meet.
Yeah, no, I'll kind of let Joe get into like the actual weight and whatever. But the basic idea of it is like, whenever you have an excessive amount of water or water retention.
When was this, by the way? Sorry. That was the day of the meet?
No, that was like a couple of, like 2 months before maybe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a little
But
bit,
but that's me walking around at like just talking about the weight. Like I walk around at hovering between like 238 and 244.
Well, you
usually.
look good.
Thank you. It was like 9% body fat after the DEXA that I got that done.
Damn.
But yeah, I'm proud of it. I've been fucking working hard.
It's a lot of muscle mass.
Yeah, on 5'5", right? But that's my walk around weight, walk around body fat percentage, and then I compete at the 100 kg category, which is 220.4 pounds. So in order to get there, I have to drop 20 plus pounds to make weight and then rehydrate over the course of 24 hours and compete at my maximal ability.
And then most people would say it's not possible when you're already that lean, because what are you going to lose, right?
Exactly. Yep.
I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No, you're good. Yeah, no. Basically, anytime though you have excessive water retention, that water that's there, without getting like super deep into it, it's like it's someone's job to get rid of it. It's either going to be your kidney or your hypothalamus. And so instead of doing this like water cut, this like water sodium, manipulation, we lean into, hey, let's try to tip this like seesaw back toward this, parasympathetic state and see how much, water we can remove via this like hypothalamic route. And that's kind of the overarching theme of it. So I call it like a cold cut, right? It's like, so he ended up doing like, a little bit of cryotherapy and really just like a lot of meditation and mindfulness work. Started around like 244-ish.
Yeah, 244.
And then worked his way down to like 230. And then from there he just sweat.
Yep.
So, okay, can you tell us, I know you mentioned like most people go the sodium.
Water sodium.
Water sodium. Can you talk about like what that usually consists of and how the way you guys did this was so different?
Yeah, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, for sure. So like the typical water cut is preceded by a sodium and water load. So if you essentially your body is going to get used to whatever stimulus you provide it with. So if you normally drink let's say 1.5 gallons of water a day, and then 7 to 10 days out from the competition, you double your water intake to like over 3 gallons a day and pair it with sodium, you're going to not only retain a good amount of water, but your body is going to basically like it's going to react with more like diuresis and more urination because you're over flooding your system with hydration. You don't need that much. Yeah. And your body gets into the situation where this is what my normal is. This is what it means to be in homeostasis. So in order to have a proper like water balance, my kidneys have to work harder to filter the water that I'm taking in and urinate more. So in doing the water and sodium load, you are essentially overhydrating so that later in the week, let's say on Wednesday, you're weighing in on Friday, you start the water load on like Saturday, water and sodium load on Saturday. The next Wednesday, you remove all sodium, but you keep your water intake high and you take in distilled water. So by doing that, you start to flush out all of the electrolytes that you have in your body. You're still urinating and having that diuresis happen at a very, very large rate, but you're urinating more, you're peeing more, you're flushing water out. And then on that Thursday, you essentially remove most of the water that you consume. It continues because your body is like expecting more water to come in. It keeps urinating, keeps flushing. Just inhaled my own spit. And then After doing that, you get to a point where now you have to sweat an additional weight out. But it's after doing that, you're taxing your kidneys because you're placing the demand on the kidneys to cause this urination and this filtration to happen at a larger rate. And we talked about astragalus and like astragaloside, things to support your kidneys and like bump up your filtration rate. But that can only go so far because you're still causing this systemic stress on your organs and your blood vessels and the filtration. So the reason that we did this was to basically, Jake had an idea, a theory that we could cause the similar amount of like water droppage without stressing the kidneys and without stressing the the vessels, and essentially like get to the end goal without that systemic stress. And that's why we did this.
And the whole idea, I guess, like what came up with this idea, or the need for the idea, I should say, is that one thing that Joe struggles with, and anybody that's going to just have the amount of like brain and spine power that he has during a squat, he's got a massive squat, right? Every time he'd finish that squat, his hands would swell up, right? His hands and feet, and he'd just kind of balloon up and get all this edema, which is always going to be caused by this like excessive sympathetic response, right?
Like Mark talking about how good you are at causing damage to yourself when you're running. It's that.
Right. And so we needed him to be able to have not, super swelled up hands to be able to deadlift because, you got to be able to hold on to the deadlift. So the idea was, hey, let's put less systemic stress on you. Let's make sure your hypothalamus is happy so you're not going to just swell up after you're done with the squat. And let's put you in a position where you can succeed for your deadlift. And so he went through a squat, like as we're watching, all-time world record squat again for like the 17th time in a row,
fourth time in a row, but yeah.
And came and hit a 496 bench, and then came and hit his deadlift without any swelling, and worked out really well.
And no edema after the meet whatsoever. Like I was in the most healthy position I've ever been post competition due to that approach. So.
What did the cold therapy do specifically? Just kind of lower inflammation?
No, yeah, that's a really good question. So what you're trying to do when you initiate the sweat is whenever you sweat, and you need to be able to sweat, it's all these sympathetic ligands. You have this cost. So this first wave of sympathetic ligands hit, and you can sweat really easy, right? Okay. Like, have you ever been in the sauna or like seen somebody in a weight cut, and all of a sudden they're not sweating? They can sit in there, you can throw them in freaking lava at that point, and it's like they're not going to sweat. And the only way to do that, to get them to sweat at that point, is like step back, have them go to sleep, like get this like, very parasympathetic state, and they could go again after that. But at that point, it's like you're never going to get them to sweat. So you do this little cold therapy stuff to make sure that we're not ever getting into this, sympathetic spot early.
Yeah. So let me ask you this too. With all the cuts you've done and then doing this cut, there was a big noticeable difference in your performance on the way this one happened.
100-fold.
Yeah.
I felt the best I have ever felt on the competition. Like I mentioned to Mark and Jake earlier, like I wait normally with a 24-hour weigh-in, like you weigh in, you start to rehydrate after, and generally most of the time anybody who does an appreciable cut is going to feel like shit for the rest of the day. And they need to go to bed that night, and then you'll wake up and be like, okay, I'm back. I feel good.
Yeah.
This entire cut, I was texting Jake because he was traveling out like the day I was rehydrating. I was like, dude, I'm ready to go right now. Like if I needed to, I really think, obviously I'm not recommending this at all, but if someone were to incorporate some of these principles or these approaches for something like a 2-hour weigh-in, it would be much smoother than any focus anyone could have on actually like the kidney option, that pathway. So it was incredible. Like I'm very, very the original plan for this meet was just to go in and get a total, like take 2 attempts on everything like we talked about, just get a total, go 242 and not even worry about cutting, just to get some data in regards to the training. But what, like 12 days out, like 14 days out?
Yeah, it was like, it's probably like 2 weeks out. I was like, wait, I think we can pull this off.
Yeah, he's like, how much do you weigh? And I'm like, like 239 this morning. And he's like, I have an idea. Do you want to try something? And I'm like, sure. You think it's going to work? And I'm like, sure, whatever. Yeah. And it's just, I've drank the Kool-Aid hard enough that and Jake's helped me like through all the nerve damage and whatnot. And it's worked so well that it's like, I trust him to get me there. So I was like, if this is going to work and you think it's going to work and you want to explain it to me, and he did. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's try it. And we did, and it worked. And I'm glad we did, because now I feel like we were talking about before we headed in here, the whole goal of training right now is to peel off a little bit more body fat percentage, get a little bit leaner, and then after like July or something, be well fed, big and strong, going into the American Pro October 28th, and use this same approach and put up even a bigger total. So,
what's the idea behind being leaner as a power lifter? Is it to help you absorb more nutrients when you go and work on getting bigger again?
No, it's just so you can post like some really nice pictures on Instagram and
definitely
get more
that.
likes.
Yeah. It's just, I'd just say like it's the whole basis. Like while yes, like mass moves mass, you can't contract fat, you know? So if I can maximize my like lean tissue and be able to like we were talking about, one of the goals of this like developmental phase is like more triceps, more hamstrings, more delts. If I can get some pounds, some body fat percentage off, and then allocate that which I've lost to lean tissue in those areas, that's going to help bump up my deadlift. That's going to help bump up my bench, and my squat's going to be my squat. So if I can put a little bit more pounds on my bench and deadlift through like some approaches like this, it could take a total off like 6 attempts for 2069, which I got like a week and a half ago. Who knows what the total is after that? And if I do like 3 attempts and run because this was what, like an 8-week peak. We didn't really devote a lot of. I opened at 826, and the heaviest weight I hit in training was 815 on squat. So it's like if we devote a little bit more time to a little bit harder of a peak, a little bit more aggressive, who knows what the top end is? And that's part of the reason I feel like after learning so much from Jake and approaching these things in such a different manner, I feel like a new lifter. I feel like I'm getting noob gains again after being in this sport for like 15 years. So It's exciting.
That's amazing. What do you guys think for the lifter or the athlete out there? I guess before we switch gears, do you think that protocol would work well for other sports? Would that protocol for that weight cut, would that work for MMA and stuff like that, or would you utilize something different?
I think it would just absolutely depend on the person, like, and how far along this scale are you on this, like, you know, sympathetic, like, imaginary scale. Because if it's somebody that's like, hey, you know, we're using a little extra gear, we're using a little extra like PEDs, things like that, absolutely you're going to be a little bit more like sympathetic, because you need to be, right? Like that's what those drugs do. So it would depend on the individual. For the most part, I would say this would probably work better for men than it would for women, just because we have, you know, more DHTs, we have more sympathetic ligands, we have more of this, like, you know, sympathetic arousal for the most part. But it's just kind of an individual, you know, basis.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we've talked about blood work and getting your labs done on this podcast with many different guests, as that's super important for understanding what's going on underneath the hood. That's why we've been partnered with Merrick Health for such a long time now, owned by Derek for more plates, more dates. With Merrick Health, you can get yourself the Power Project panel, or you can select any specific labs you want to get. And after you get that done, you'll be able to work with one of Merrick's patient care coordinators, where they'll help you understand what type of nutritional, lifestyle, hormonal, or other type of interventions you can utilize to help fix whatever might be going on underneath the hood. Merrick is your one-stop shop to make sure that everything is going well underneath the hood. Andrew, how can they get their blood work done?
Yes, we have two options for you guys. Head over to merrickhealth.com/powerproject. That's MAREK health.com/powerproject. There you guys will see the Power Project panel that Nsima was just talking about. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save $101 off of that panel. Now, if you want to custom select your own panel, you guys can use promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off all labs. Again, that's at merrickhealth.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
What about some of the people that want to, like, you know, ride out the natty line as hard as they can, and you know, they want to, you know, not take anything that's you know, going to have them test positive for their sport? We've seen in jiu-jitsu now, there's been a bunch of guys have been popped, and I think we're seeing more and more people you know, failing drug tests and things like that. There's a lot on the line for people, and some people just simply don't want to take steroids, I guess you'd say. But what do you guys think in terms of performance enhancement? How far can somebody get really great results, performance enhancement wise, without getting into the PEDs that are banned?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
A
like
1,000% yes.
it's like really what you got to do is like take this individual and it's like, where do you want to be, right? It's like, do you want like whether it's like, you know, BJJ, martial arts, whether it's like powerlifting, whether, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, it's like what you need to be able to do is look under the hood and say, hey, where am I lacking? Like my individual genetics, where do I lack, right? And what specifically do I need to do and what specific adaptations do I need to make so I can be there? Right? Because if like you want to be here, your roadmap to get there is going to be very different than, you know, someone else's. We're all starting in different places, different vehicles, different, you know, terrains, everything. So it's like you just have to be specific. Training's going to have to be different. Nutrition's going to have to be different. But if you were to optimize like, you know, training, nutrition, and everything, like, you know, all these legal like PEDs, things like these, you know, carnitines and whatever, or, you know, like even glutathione could make a really big impact. You can go really, really, really far, especially if it's not a strength sport.
What does something like glutathione do?
So glutathione, man, so many different things. Again, depends on the application, but it's like, you know, long story short though, it's like you can train harder and recover faster, right? Like your ability to recover is going to be significantly helped. And even for people who struggle with this, like what I like to call a 2-fuel theory, which is like your ability to fold proteins using glucose and fatty acids at the same time, right? So like basically,
what's fold protein mean?
To be able to take, you know, so basically like whenever you're making anything in your cell, you have to make this protein. It's basically just a bunch of amino acids that get stranded together, and it's going to be folded. Then it goes to your ribosomes, and they get clipped off, and it goes out to whatever it's going to be, whether it's an enzyme, a new muscle tissue, a new, you know, whatever, everything you have to make. That's basically what your liver does, right? It's like, it's a very hepatic process. But being able to pay for that, because it has a cost, right? Being able to pay for that cost with glucose and fatty acids at the same time, that's where you're really making the most progress. That's the ability to adapt to anything. This is where your allostatic load is really the biggest it can be.
And that's like what we were talking about like using something like carnitine and choline, because we always think about energy systems in terms of like little vacuums, and it's like this one and then this one and then this one. But if we can optimize and make all of these happen at the most efficient pace at the same time and in synchronization with one another, then you can really get to a point where the individual is like optimized and you're getting the most bang for your buck, not just out of the supplementation that you're doing, but also the training, also the lifestyle, also the diet. And like we were talking about in the gym, all these things compound in one another. So it's like, it's easy to say this to everyone and be like, oh, just do this. But it's not just a matter, at least like just someone who's like, because I coach a lot of beginners too. And it's like, in order to make someone understand like how all of these things compound in one another, it's like a little bit more buy-in each time, because like every time somebody does like this one thing and they're like, oh, that did work, then it's like, okay, they want to buy in a little bit more, and it's like, what more can I do? It's like, well, how about this and then this, and then ideally if you get someone who's really wants to lean into it and be the absolute best that they can, whether they're natural or enhanced, then they get to a point where almost everything that they're doing is catered around the adaptations that they are wanting to make in the gym or for their particular goal.
I like what you're saying there, because you know, we can get caught up on the idea that there's like a thing that we're going to take that's going to like progress us forward. But you might say, lay down on the ground, put your feet up, you know, and people are like, well, that doesn't really do anything.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it can have a profound effect. It can help with inflammation. It can help circulation. If we can feed into circulation, well, then we're feeding into 90,000 other things that could be productive towards you becoming a better athlete. But it's kind of hard. You're like, I'm going to sit up against the, you know, I'm just going to have my feet up high on the wall. Like, seems stupid.
Yeah.
But our mind gets so attached to like the nuance of like this new drug or this new peptide or new whatever thing is sexy to people.
Yeah, and it's got to be less on the drug and more, how do I apply this and how do I like look under the hood of my biology and know, you know, what I need to apply at the right time. Some of the craziest things I've ever done with like professional athletes has not been any PED at all. Sometimes it's like, you know, like wear some toe spacers and do some mindfulness work, right? Or it's like, hey, let's do some morning glutathione and let's do some, like, go throw some med balls outside with a little MCT, something like that.
They're like, I just got off the phone with Jake Benson. He told me to wear toe spacers.
Yeah.
They're like so disappointed.
So, I know. And it's like, sometimes it's like, well, I guess it's easy, so I'll do it. And then, they text me a few days later. It's like, oh my gosh, my HRV went up here and like, I'm feeling great. And like,
HRV.
There we go.
improves.
Okay. You know what? Let's bring this. So like I've been noticing in the past, I used to like, I do work out every day.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, I have the Oura Ring and my 8 Sleep mattress, and they track the HRV pretty similarly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have some times where my HRV is a bit higher, 80, 90. But recently, man, for the past few months, I've had just like perpetually low HRV.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I've felt great, I've purposely taken certain days off of like maybe rolling or doing much to just see, will this go back up? And it's just been like 20, 25, 30, 19, 20. And I'm just wondering, is that something that you think I need to pay attention to, even though I feel fine? I don't feel fatigued. My performance is good. Body feels great. Or like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really nice biomarker to track.
Yeah.
It is important. You might feel really good now, but I think that's, kind of the beginning of where things could start to, something could cause an issue.
Yeah.
Now, why that HRV started tanking is really the question, right? It's like, am I struggling to get parasympathetic after, X? Like,
And that's the thing for me, I'm generally pretty chill with everything. Like even like working out or jujitsu or whatever, I'm relaxed.
He doesn't even usually make noise when he lifts.
Yeah, like
oh, weird.
I'm just like usually perpetually relaxed with everything. I just I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can feel really zen and really
Yeah.
relaxed
I was
though, and
gonna
have
say.
like be very sympathetic.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm very quiet even when I'm doing like 750-pound squat.
There's a difference between like mentally parasympathetic and mentally relaxed, and actually being like physiologically relaxed and truly parasympathetic, because it's not just like how you feel, it's also like it's the other biomarkers. It's like your heart rate, like your blood pressure, breathing
Actually,
rate.
I think the
all
big
of-
one might, in your case, might actually be like looking at respirations per minute too, right?
Yeah.
Because like if those are going up, it's like, do we have a little bit more metabolism in the amygdala than we should be?
That's
right?
that's a huge thing for me, particularly. Like I need to consciously slow my breathing down, especially when I'm on like a podcast, because it's so easy for me to do this same thing and keep talking da 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 da, and then when I'm done, it's fuck. It's like holy shit, But
Yeah.
just being conscious of stuff like that. So
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna mention this one more thing that I want to like try to make this HRV thing a bit broader. My respirations per minute, I breathe slow. Like that's one thing that we've been paying attention to and been talking about on the podcast for a long time, like nasal breathing and not, being super hype in that way. So my respirations per minute are usually pretty low too. During jiu-jitsu, I'm always nasal breathing. I don't get fatigued in that way because my breath is like pretty good there too. So I guess it's something we'll figure out. But like, what are ways that people can figure out how to de-stress? Like, what should they be paying attention to? Because you mentioned a few things there, but maybe we can go deeper on a few.
Yeah, I think like, man, there's so many different ways to go. Like even doing like, I was telling Mark, maybe some hot yoga could actually be like really important, right? It's like, doing some heat therapy, doing some cold therapy. It's like doing some journaling, doing some breathing drills. Like all those things are going to be.
There's a lot of girls in really tight pants in those classes, so
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
wear tighter
wanna
pants.
do
That's
hot
the option.
yoga.
Yeah, make it a contest and wear tighter pants than they do.
I'll see what I can do. Andrew likes it when I wear tight pants.
Tighter and see-through. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Yep. The old wet white competition, right?
I would say for myself, I'm usually, I feel like I'm pretty calm. I feel like I'm pretty chill, like in my own brain and mind. When something happens, not that I don't care about it, but I think I've had people in my life before tell me like, it seems like you don't care much about stuff. Obviously I care about people and I care about the things that are going on around me, but I've learned to develop like a reinterpretation and to try to be a little calmer and have things, if something does happen, I try to interpret how I'm going to react to that. And I try to react what I would consider to be in somewhat a rational way. However, there's still a lot of explosions going on in my brain all the time because, I want to get better at this. I want to get better at that. I do put pressure on myself. I don't think a crazy amount of pressure, but I want to do better in business. I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better husband. And these things they're always there, even just a couple days ago, I got in my hot tub and I'm just like looking up at the moon and you just kind of get in this little Zen mode. And I was just thinking like, I still need to be better. Like I've just had that thought. Like I still need to be fucking better. Like my wife is awesome. Yeah. I need to be fucking better for her.
Yeah.
And so, you have these things that they kind of, they pull on you and they can amplify some good positive things. Cause then you line up a cascade of disciplines that hopefully head you in that direction. But then you're thinking, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. I got to do that. So that happens to me a lot.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of things that could, be just like that. You can even really make a case for looking at like your training and your diet too, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, maybe you're a little bit more sympathetic because you're trying to, cause a little bit more lipolysis, or maybe like, maybe there's a little bit more glucocorticoids going on or whatnot. None of these things you really feel that much, right? It's like you just kind of don't feel tired, but you don't feel, amped or anything. Mm-hmm. But they're going on and they're happening. And that's, causing stress on the heart, causing, this lack of fluidity between this like sympathetic and parasympathetic state, which is really what an HRV is reflective of.
I think your intensity in jiu-jitsu gone sky high, right? Like recently with the, not all the time, but with the guys that you're rolling with, it's a big change there, right?
Yeah, there's a change there. Mentally though, like even though I'm going and rolling in that spot in San Jose, like I'm still, afterwards I don't feel stressed. Right. Afterwards I can wind down fairly quickly. I'm not like hyped up for hours, right?
So in that case, you might lean into the whole like take a little, morning glutathione on your days off, and probably do a little bit of like some mindfulness work on those days too. And then like, maybe what we've talked about, I call it creatine day, but it's like maybe implement a creatine day where it's a little more like, usually this is kind of like a relatively intense but long rest. You kind of treat it like you're a sprinter, right? It's like one sprint. I was a sprinter in college and like you sprint, you walk back.
Explains those legs.
That's like the only reason I have hamstrings. It's the only thing I've
100 meter, 200 meter?
I did 1, 2, 4.
Nice.
But you sprint and it's like you just walk as slow as you possibly can on the way back, right? And that's kind of what you're treating it like. It's like just do some med ball throws, do that kind of thing. I mean, I can build something out for you real quick after this. And but those kind of things, it's like, little glutathione and some creatine days, and all of a sudden those numbers will start, flying up.
Is there a glutathione that's not an injection that will do anything?
No.
I had to stop being a pussy. Like the L-carnitine thing, the glutathione, I gotta use needles.
We actually have a really cool company that manufactures all this stuff for us. We have a so only ever get glutathione that's lyophilized. That means it comes in a powder. Like, I know you've used growth hormone. That's how growth hormone comes.
Fuck you. that caught me off guard.
Just kidding. But it comes in a powder.
Gotta be careful. Joe's got a cramp.
It's a powder you can inject?
No,
it's a powder, and you get a special...
What?
Yeah, don't play dumb with me.
Fuck you. Everybody on YouTube is just like, fucking Nsima.
I knew it. Just kidding.
At least we can rest our hat on the fact that he's ugly.
Here we go.
Yeah.
But no, it's a powder. And you get a reconstitution water. Okay. And this company has this reconstitution water that has a little bit of taurine in it, so it acts as a sulfur donor for this glutathione. Just basically makes the glutathione more potent, right? And then you reconstitute it and you put it in the fridge. It's the only way to have glutathione. Every other kind you get, by the time it gets to you, it's garbage. It's already just pretty much broken down.
If anyone listening to the podcast or you guys ever buy glutathione and it comes in a liquid already, it's bunk. Trash. So
okay. Is it fairly foolproof? Like, is the powder like a one like serving size for like a vial? Because I'm just thinking like if you have to measure that out, like it's gonna be.
They make it super easy.
Okay.
It's what glutathione transport backwater GTB, and on the label it says like add 10 milliliters of this to this vial. This equates to this dosage. So
right, and then from there it's like you would just have like I would just tell you like, hey, Nsima, take like 300 milligrams in the morning.
Are you guys able to say where you get this stuff?
Yeah, it's better through biology. So this is where we get.
It's his company.
Oh, that's your okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
So
I'm
this
gonna
is
get that shit.
everything that you can. In my opinion, that I think is worth it. That's not a banned substance. I manufacture and we have through biology. So we have things like
So that's like Nectar. Nectar's over there
Nectar
too.
is his product. It's There's Nectar, NAD plus, glutathione,
data,
ATP. Synthesize ATP, because people don't realize that they can actually like you can synthesize cellular ATP for like pure energy now. But
Wow.
like and this is what I was talking about when we were talking about like the non-androgenic PEDs, because like none of this is banned, none of this is like a banned substance, because it's how can you test for cellular energy? There's no possible way to do that. And but on my competition day, like most of the time for powerlifters, the old school methodology is like test no ester methyl TREN fucking halo like Skittles on the day of,
and then brush your teeth with some something.
like what meat day drugs don't count, and it's like that's the old school approach. Like I barely used any like actual like bumped up versions of androgens on the meat day, but I took multiple doses of Nectar, ATP, and data. So and got way more out of it. So.
What are some of these other things? What's we've heard a lot about NAD plus. What are some of your? I know some people I think are utilizing for like anti-aging purposes. What are some of your thoughts on it?
I think there's a lot of ways that you can use NAD plus. I was just thinking, I have this little joke with Andy. He's coming in. We're like, whenever you're too hydrogen-y, we'll use NAD plus. And it's like basically like the way that NAD plus works is it works with your hydrogen ions, right? So there's so many ways to use this too. Like you could actually take like a low dose NAD plus, something like maybe 20, 30 mgs. Totally depends on the person. That's probably good, more or less like ballpark range. And go do some kind of glycolytic session, right? Where you're really trying to work
Like
on
a bodybuilding session, maybe.
Yeah, like a substrate session. It's like you come in and it's kind of this high rep, mostly machines. You're not doing like a ton of like heavy lifting, and it's like it's really cool because you can make a big bang for your buck. Especially like if you're traveling, it's like, hey, I have 45 minutes to work out, and I need to make this very effective. A little bit of NAD plus can absolutely, what's the word, like
Amplify.
Yeah, that kind of situation. NAD plus would also go really well. Kind of like a glutathione, like the morning of a rest day. It can give you that kind of effect too. But on that case, I'd probably go a little bit higher, maybe something like 60 to 100 mgs on the morning of a rest day, and kind of take care of those hydrogens.
And that's how I've used it, because like I don't need any help due to like how efficiently I can utilize my own musculature and like the damage that I can cause to myself due to my training age and just how.
What do you mean by that damage? You mentioned that earlier, and what do you mean by that?
So like the better you are at a particular technique or like putting force in a particular position. So like for instance, my squat, like I have not to toot my own horn, but I have like really, really good technique. It's really repeatable.
You have an all-time world record.
Yeah, and it's like I'm very, very strong, and I'm very, very like precise in the way that I do it. Like I have a very, very a knack for like my precision window, hitting my precision window, where it's like I will put the most amount of force possible in this particular range of motion. But in doing so, like that's such a high demand on my body and on my physiology and on my biology. So there's always, like Jake mentioned it before, there's always a debt to everything that we do. Even when we get really, really fantastic at something, there's still a debt that we're incurring by doing that particular thing.
Like for example, on a squat, you can kind of wreck yourself with like 2 plates.
Yes,
which for somebody else to scratch their head and be like, I don't understand how he got so much out of 2 plates, but you could probably induce some muscle hypertrophy and things like that just because you're so connected, right?
And because of that neuromuscular activation or the mind muscle connection or whatever term you want to use for
like
it, motor unit recruitment, and it's just like how you were saying, you don't need much for your legs at this point. I'm the same way. Like if I just transition to like my health phase post powerlifting, I would probably not squat very much, and really when I did train legs, there wouldn't be much of a squat pattern, because if I did as much as I would like to, I would cause too much, like the damage would be redundant. So that's what I mean. Using something like an NAD plus in my context would just cause that damage to be much further along, and it's like I could get into territory where it's like I'm overtraining or getting to a point where it's impossible to recover from.
Or just like getting really glycolytic really quick.
Yeah.
Basically, like he's not going to have any oxygen. And if there's no oxygen in the blood, you can't recycle these creatines, and it's like now you can't even lift that weight anyway.
Yeah, it's like getting into like whenever you would compete, you would come back and do your like the session back a week after, where it's like, oh, we're gonna do some sets of 6, sets of 10, whatever, and you get like this crazy nasty pump after the first set, and you're like, how the fuck can I even do anything after that? That's like that. The result of that happening, like you're too efficient and too turned on
with one rep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like the excessive motor unit recruitment.
Yeah. But and that's why I use it on my rest days, because it, for my particular context, and probably for your own, like you could get more out of it that way.
I got a question about TREN, because
TREN.
You were kind of mentioning like it's
that Nsima was on TREN, right?
I know.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, his name
No, he was asking.
Nsima
He was
for a
asking you for a source off air. That's what I thought.
Oh, okay. Russ was saying that.
Nsima. I'm shocked.
Are you?
God damn it, man.
You guys realize he could kill all of us at the same time.
Probably.
No, but he won't on air.
Kind of interesting.
Okay,
but I think he could.
I need to make it home. Okay, I'll stop.
The question is kind of in the realm of, you know, it's like a lot of people's go-to, right? It maybe masks some things. Do you think it's a good drug, like in terms of utilizing it for powerlifting, and what are the things that people seem to be pretty reckless with it, and the amount that people used to use years and years ago seemed like people were using it more moderately, kind of because the way that it came, and now you know, people make it in like 100 and 200 milligram dosages, and people are blasting the fuck out of it. So what are some of your thoughts?
Well, I think the way to think about TREN is that the second that you inject TREN isn't going to do much as far as like these like protein expressions that other drugs can do. Otherwise, you just use like testosterone, right? The thing that makes TREN really special and different is that it's almost like changing the software and in your brain, right? You're almost like completely like, you know, normally you operate on Windows. Now you're literally on a completely different software. So you have it actually hits your olfactory nerve, this little nasal nerve. And by law of locality, it actually pushes off onto the amygdala. And then through that, it has a little feedback loop with the amygdala to the hippocampus and then the hypothalamus. And because of that, now everything that you see, like your brain sees, like your hypothalamus is assessing in your body, like, you know, how much glucose, how much whatever's happening in your body, the, you know, perception that you see is now different, right? It's under a new lens because it's now biased towards this amygdala-driven environment that you're not used to. Yeah, so it's like it's going to drive glucocorticoids up, right? Which is why no one's really hungry. Everyone gets jacked on TREN, right? You take TREN, it's like, dude, I don't need to eat and I'm jacked. And I'm not getting any weaker, right, Nsima?
No. But yeah, kind of true. This is true.
But yeah, that's like it's a very amygdala driven, and there's no other. Well, I guess methyltren, but like that's what makes it unique.
Methyltren is different.
Don't act like
I don't think that was a legitimate question.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that's my fault. It's literally just like methylated TREN, which means now it's orally available.
Oh, okay.
And so it acts like really all orals are is like you basically make this little leaving group on the steroid so that it can go into your stomach without being destroyed, go through a first bypass of the liver, and it doesn't get broken down. I lost the word what it's called, but then it comes through and gets the second bypass. But that first bypass of the liver is what makes oral special. And so oral steroids, like using them long term makes no sense. Like using them for more than like even a week or two, there's not really a purpose. You can actually, it's like those have such acute effects and they kick in so quickly that it doesn't make sense to use them long term, because anything else you could mimic by just taking a different drug.
When it comes to some of the things we've been mentioning before, some of the things that are legal, it's been my own experience utilizing a little bit of the stuff for running, that it doesn't even need to be used every day, right?
Absolutely. No, yep, you're completely correct.
So it's kind of interesting that like you can kind of just take it as you feel maybe you need it, right?
And because it's not like a sex hormone where it's like going to or just it's not suppressive, that it's not going to affect your own body's like natural production of anything. It's not as if you, I don't want to say are making a commitment to taking it, but it's not like when you hop on testosterone, you can't just take it when you want. It's like you need to stay on this because your testicles are not going to produce your own testosterone. When you come off, you need to understand that and approach it in that manner. With this, there's no like, you could take it one day a week and get an effect, you know?
Do you see any signs with any of the things that you guys like mentioned from that website and what we've talked about? Is there anything that you guys see in the future could be banned or would be banned? Or, like, are you able to test for these things?
So like going through the things we just, I mean, like, no, like carnitine exists in your body, right? We have a carnitine shuttle system in every single cell you have, or just about. And then, I mean, like choline exists in your spine and in your brain. So it's like, you can't test for that.
And like acetylcholine comes from like the food you eat. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. It's like ATP just exists. Like you can't test for, like even data exists, right? It's like, you can't test for that either. So
What's that one?
diisopropylamine dichloroacetate data. It's a little bit more complicated one, but it works on what's called your PDKs, your pyruvate dehydrogenase kinase, and so it's going to just bias you to not recognize fatigue as quickly. So you can take something like data and
it's dumb.
and
So like, for example, your heart rate could be up and you could be exerting, but you don't register that fatigue?
It's more how much ATP that you are hydrolyzing at once is not recognized, right? Okay. Like it's not like all these little AMPs and all these other things that come into your body. It's now not really being recognized as you know. So like it's something we actually use for the Tom Platt squat. It's like you can get pretty far, and it's like you don't really feel this like lactate buildup coming up anymore. I guess most of it would be through like this lactase.
Ooh.
So it's like you can push into
Yeah,
some
you
really,
get some ideas
really
over there?
nasty territory.
Pretty good for running.
It could be
maybe.
for the right person, the right setting.
Sprinting.
Sprinting, awesome.
Yeah,
400
Like 800 meter.
by far
400 meter.
the most I've ever seen it used is the 400 and 800 meter for sprinting.
Do you think this is something that's like probably being used by Olympic level sprinters? Because again, it's not something that, you know, you'd have to test for.
I always thought it would be, and as I got further and further into like these professional sports, I realized not many people actually knew about it. I'm sure there's some people because it's not like an unknown drug, but a lot of these things, like I don't think many people really know how to, like, even though they exist, one, or that they can be used, and then two, like, how do I even practically use this? Like, how do I even pick a dose?
Because it's not just one of those things where it's like, oh, like caffeine works, 200 milligrams of caffeine. It's like with data, it's like what dose is gonna work for this particular individual in what particular context. So it's much harder to apply it as a whole. But if you do understand it, that's why it's like learning from Jake and being as like integrated with this as I have been is why it's so exciting for me, and I know it's exciting for you too, because like I think about like what the fuck is things going to look like in 5 or 10 years, because like the level of intelligence and the level of education, and then like a byproduct of that in application, it's like what happens when more people know about these things and can intellectually apply them. It's like where's the ceiling? Because I have no idea.
No,
That's crazy.
I don't think any sport has even close to been tapped into all the way.
Which is nuts to say out loud, because like think about some of the records, not just in powerlifting, but like Usain Bolt. Like what happens then? It's like I have no idea. So
yeah.
How much healthier do you, because I don't know the type of stuff that maybe you used to do before meet or before doing some of these things, but now I'm assuming you got to be feeling pretty fucking good.
I feel amazing. I feel like a new person. Like that's what, I don't know if you can pull this one up, but like there's a reason after I hit my opener deadlift, like I bawled my eyes out, and I thanked him, because like I literally cannot express enough verbal gratitude or anything for Jake, because he never sells himself. But I genuinely think like he's one of, if not like the most, like the smartest and most like just most practical person on the planet, because of the way that he can think and the way that he can put puzzle pieces together. And I'll always be indebted to him, because I feel like right now we're talking about how I feel like a new lifter. It's the next one after that where I'm crying and hugging.
Let's also not forget that he's deadlifted over 800 pounds.
Right, yes, yeah. Jake's fucking
Bad
strong
motherfucker
too
over there.
But in this video, I'm like I'm crying and I'm saying like 7, and I'm getting emotional right now. But it's like I was saying like 7 years. It took me 7 years, and it's thanks to that guy, because I would have kept approaching things with this is my hammer. This is the only tool that I have, and I probably would have either retired or hurt myself even further than I had before had I not interacted with him. And I not only feel like a new power lifter, I feel like a new person, and I can pass on that knowledge to other people and like honestly change the world, not just the sport, because like we don't need to do this dumb shit that everybody thinks we have to do. Like the bodybuilders that I talk to in Vegas that are taking grams and grams of gear, it's like you don't fucking need to kill yourself through this sport to excel. I hit a 62-pound total PR after 7 years being on a net like less than 800 milligrams of anabolics for 6 weeks, as opposed to my previous experience where I would start a meet cycle at like 15, 16 weeks out and be upwards of like 2 grams a gear. And it was all the way that I look at it now, and the way that a lot of people approach powerlifting or their own sports endeavors, it's as fucked up as it is to say, it's a convoluted suicide attempt. Because people say, I'm willing to die for this. I'm willing to die for this. And it's not the fact that they're willing to die for this. They're, in a way, trying to kill themselves through this, or give themselves a reason to die for something. And I just feel like a new person, and I could never say thank you enough to that dude. So that's where it's world different. Like even after the meet, my resting heart rate was like down in the 70s, and it's like zero edema. I feel good. I felt like I went and trained Monday after my meet. Like my normal experience is like I can't fucking move because I've caused so much damage to myself. So it's like miles ahead and hitting 62-pound total PRs on a very relaxed day. So I'm like, what happens when we like, where's the ceiling? I don't know. That's why I'm so excited. How can I not be excited about this stuff?
How old are you now?
29.
29. So like, I mean, where you don't know where the ceiling is, but how long more do you feel like you want to try and be competitive?
Mid-30s.
Mid-30s.
That's what I was thinking, you know? Like we were talking about this the other day, because like I don't want to be the guy who's like going for my best when I'm like 40. I want to be able to like have kids and relax and be healthy and transition more into like an educator leader role. And I know I am in one currently, but just a little bit like I don't want to be the guy that has to be forced to retire. I want to walk away on my own terms. So I'm thinking like 35, 36. I have a good couple of years left, and it's with as healthy as I am, like there's no reason not to have that many years left. Like before I started working with Jake and like being friends with him and talking to him in like 2020, I was thinking that next meet, maybe the next 2 meets, I was going to retire afterwards. I was at the end of my road because I didn't know what else to do. So like 35, 36, and then just be lean and strong-ish. I don't know, the whole dad plan where it's just a lot of activity and like 3 days of training a week and be like, I'm cool.
Yeah, it seemed like your whole mindset has changed since I first met you, which I didn't really know you all that well back then. I don't know you a ton even now, but we know each other more than we did. And when I first met you, I remember, you were competing. You were in a contest, but I remember you were like pretty like amped and fired up, and you just seem like you have a different like aura around you nowadays. So it's really cool.
Thank you.
It must be something you worked on.
Yeah, it is, and it's like I'm vocal. Like I've been in therapy since like 2017 because like I didn't have like a fucked up childhood. It's just like I come from a lot of struggle, like a lot of poverty. My mom was super sick. My dad and I like really had to work hard to like make things work for a while, and like just bounced around where I was living and whatnot. Didn't always know where like food was coming from and stuff, and it's like there's a lot of struggle there, and I kind of like carried. In addition, to, I attempted suicide when I was like 17, and was unsuccessful, obviously, but just there was a lot of internal like both guilt and anger that I like used powerlifting as an outlet for, and like that's why I was so amped up and so like fiery all the time. And it's like I've been active in therapy and counseling and like mindfulness. I was talking to Chris before the podcast about how I've used like microdoses of psychedelics to like come off of anti-anxiety meds and anti-depression medication, and just I've done a lot of self-work.
Was that through like some care of a doctor, or was that just your own?
Like communication with a remote physician. This was like back in like 2017, 2018, before a lot of people, before it was like ketamine therapy and whatnot, where it's like actually a thing. But it was just like me exploring it and being like, I need to figure this out or I'm going to kill myself type thing. So, and I did. And it's like, I still go to therapy. I still work on myself. I'm very, very big on mindfulness. Like Jake has talked about, like a journal every day. And that type of stuff. It takes a lot of work, but that's why I said thank you, because I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the personal growth that I've made over however long it's taken. And it's like, you called me after the meet and we're like, you're the king of perspective, you know? Because it's like, I've failed so many times and I've fallen short so many times that because I'm in the position where I'm in, where it's like I've just learned so much and I haven't ever quit. I haven't ever resigned myself to just being like, okay, I'm done. There's always more I can learn. There's always more I can give. There's always more I can do to become a better person. And eventually I'm going to hit an end, like a wall, where it's like I'm not going to be able to become a better powerlifter. But that doesn't mean I'm done becoming a better person. I'm done learning or growing or whatever. So it's big for me. It's growing up, man. Like we all go through it. So. Yeah.
Yeah, and you were 300 pounds, I think you mentioned to me, when you were like 13?
13, 14, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, wow. Yeah. I just assume people know this shit. But no, I was, because it's like, super complicated, but like we were homeless for a second, like lived out of the car for like 6 months. My mom had complete kidney failure, so she was on like 5-day-a-week dialysis, ended up getting her life saved, with a pancreas and kidney transplant. She's still around, so thankful for it, but just put our family into a lot of debt. So it was like all this hard shit. There was a period of time where it's like, we didn't know where we were going to eat. And like my dad would give me food and he would go to bed hungry. And it was like this whole fucked it, like getting emotional again. Whole fucked up situation. But then when I actually got into a better situation, a lot of, I think like it's backed up by studies. I don't know, but I've heard it before. But like people who go from like poverty where they don't have enough food, they like develop some fucked up associations with food. And I would just overeat. I developed like this binging habit where it was just like I would just eat and eat and eat because I didn't know like previously where my food would come from. So it was like I need to eat. Yeah, so I'm just gonna slam food. And I got up to like 290, 300 pounds when I was like 14. My alpha weigh-ins for like football, I was like 298 freshman year of high school. And then over the course of high school, I joined the powerlifting club. I played football, I wrestled, and I graduated high school at 169 pounds.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was the type of guy where it's like, I'm going to lose all this weight and I'm going to be super jacked. And I lost all this weight and I was like, I'm just fucking skinny. This sucks. I actually have to like eat and like train hard to do this. So, but then I'm back up to like 240 now at 5'5", and I've seen both ends of the spectrum. So.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we talk about sleep all the time on the podcast because it's one of the biggest things that helps you with your health and fitness, your recovery, your muscle gain, your fat loss, everything. That's why we've partnered with 8 Sleep for such a long time now, because the technology behind the mattress allows you to track your heart rate, the amount of times it takes you to fall asleep, your tosses and turns, your heart rate variability. It changes its temperature through the night based off how you sleep, but not only yourself, but maybe your partner on the other side of the bed. It is an amazing mattress. Andrew, how can they learn more?
Yes, head over to 8sleep.com/powerproject. That's 8 spelled out, EIGHT, sleep.com/powerproject. Along with more information, you guys will actually save $150 off of your entire order automatically. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
I'd like to shift gears a little bit. I know, again, the people have so much focus on like the peptides and stuff, and it's great that you guys are super knowledgeable about it. And maybe we'll circle back at some point to like supplements or something like that. But you guys train really fucking hard. You guys put in a lot of fucking work when you work out. What do you guys think is what do you think is maybe like one of the most important things someone can do when they're starting some strength training and they're wanting to get a little stronger and just have a little bit more muscle?
Literally just participation. especially if you're just starting. Like, don't worry about, if you're picking the right program. Like, just literally don't pick something stupid, right? Like, what's that old like Russian or Eastern Europe squat?
Smolov.
So yeah, don't do that. As long as you don't as long as you don't start with that, it's like you literally just need to participate, right? Like, participate, be with a friend, like learn the difference between like what's right and wrong as far as like, what's going to actually hurt you, but just participate, get there and learn to enjoy it. Like, you don't have to squat 3 times a week. You don't have to do whatever. Just get in and participate and figure out what you like and what you're good at.
I love that so much because I think when people start, I think they feel like they have to do things that they saw other people do. I think everyone thinks they need to squat and they get in the squat rack, and maybe they do. Maybe it's important to learn how to squat, but maybe it's also not the most important thing to start with. Like, just literally start by fucking around. Like, get on some machines, try those out, follow the little diagram on there, or ask a friend or somebody that you know that does some lifting, and just have fun with it. That way it can be repeatable.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. Make it simple and participate, and like, you'll be okay. There's no great, perfect way to start.
Yeah, because you and I both started when we were like 13, 14 years old. And it's like the only reason that I've made it this far is because I still enjoy it. So people that start this and they're like, what's the most optimal way to do this? What's the best way to do this? Or who's the guy that I have to copy to get me to where I am? It's like, you're nobody except you. You need to do what you need to do to make it sustainable for you, because it's so easy these days for people to kind of like fall into the whole trend thing where it's like, oh, this guy does it this way, this guy does it this way. And it's like, right, they do, and it works for them. But like, are you going to enjoy yourself if you do this for a year? Or is it's just finding like what's important to the individual and just participating and figuring it out for yourself. There's like, so much value in that.
Yeah. You don't know anything about your physiology or your own genetics yet. It really doesn't matter. I think like hyper fixating on what's the perfect way to start or especially as a beginner, it's like just come in and participate and have fun, and you're going to kind of figure out the rest. Once you kind of like, if you decide you want to be competitive and you really want to take this seriously, and you're kind of past that initial beginner phase, and it's like, okay, like maybe hire a coach or like kind of get a little bit more serious, but you can't even figure that out until you learn what you like and what you're good at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One thing we're seeing a lot of is just like really young guys that are very fucking strong. Yeah. We pulled up this video of this 21-year-old. His name is Dimitri something or whatever, and he was benching 600 pounds, like
Sounds
a raw
normal,
605
right? Ridiculous.
bench, raw.
Yeah, that's insane.
I have no idea who that is. That's
wild.
crazy. That's fucking wild.
Yeah.
Andrew went to look it up, and then he found another 21-year-old guy that was benching 600 pounds too. We're like, what the hell's going on around
22.
here?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Well, I've talked to
Oh my god.
I won't say it, but there's a guy I know.
Oh, watch this. You fuck.
Yeah,
This
look at
is
him
stupid.
chucking these weights around. Bar speed stays the same.
I hate it already because it started with the whole like fucking like
Flexing in
all
the
these
bathroom.
other high school girls. Just what's up, ladies?
405, smoked it easy. 495.
That's dumb.
Oh, just wait. That's more stupid.
How big is he?
247, it says, I think, on there.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me feel bad.
605.
You just trying to humble us, or what are we doing?
Check out this other guy squatting 900 for reps.
And then I saw this. Yeah.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
That's really dumb.
It's okay, guys. He's only 21.
It's only
That's
21.
fine. But
That's
this is
freaking
I was
crazy.
I was talking to another power lifter. You guys probably have no idea who he is, but Johnny Kaufman. He's another 22-year-old who's like just he's a solid kid, and he's just like he's the type of guy where it's like he's in the position that I was in when I was that age, but he has the wealth of information, and there's all this new like data surrounding training, surrounding drugs, surrounding methodologies, surrounding mindset, surrounding lifestyle, blah blah blah, all of this. And there's so many guys out there that are like getting into it at that age, and they have access to all of this. So it's like if someone fucks around at the beginning and figures out, man, I really like this, I want to take this to the new level.
Yeah.
They can do all of this stuff right. And it's like I see myself in some of those kids, and I'm like, just like we said before, like, where's the ceiling? Where's the fucking ceiling? Because it's like you're 20 years old. You have like 15, 20 more years to give. And it's like what happens if you never get injured and you just keep steadily progressing because you're patient and doing it in the right way? It's crazy to think about. Like, I really do not know what the landscape of like sport in general is going to look like in 20 years from now. So,
And there's still really not much in powerlifting.
No,
I guess there's
right.
more like on the internet. There's more like via like Instagram and social media, pumping yourself up and maybe getting some sponsors or something like that. But there's not like a lot in powerlifting. So it makes you kind of wonder, like, what if there was $100,000 or $200,000 in a, you know, prize for one of the bigger competitions? Like, what would that do?
Right, exactly. And who knows? Like, because I this is kind of what we talked about. Like, we were talking about the USPA and the WRPF stuff. Like the WRPF has like they have a history of like trying to do that, but it really seems like this past year they've been like really revitalized, and they're really trying to like just kind of elevate like a pro powerlifting circuit and do exactly that. Like put people on the same stage every year, like put the top guys, make it more of a competition in regards to like, this is a competition where it's like the spectators are going to want to see like all these all-time world records broken in every flight at this meet, but then also actually like head-to-head competition where like the weight classes matter. So I'm optimistic for powerlifting too. It's been tracking like as drama-filled and like ridiculous stuff has happened over this past year. I do think the entire USPA blow up and kind of the WRPF resurgence, and they're willing to listen to people like me and like other vocal members of the community. I think powerlifting is going to get a little bit of that advancement too. So it's an exciting time to be a part of the sport.
Like, who wouldn't want to watch like a bunch of super juiced up guys lifting as much weight as possible, though? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Why is it not more popular?
And well, because people talk about this. This was my whole argument to the WRPF, and we'll see if it goes anywhere. Because I've been like doing a little bit of consulting work with them, and I think like people say powerlifting isn't a spectator sport, and it's not a spectator sport because of the amount of people that are at these goddamn meets. If we could make a meet where it's just one flight and it lasts like 2 hours, I'd watch the shit out of that, man. You know, I think anybody would, because like you watch a UFC fight card that's like 3 hours because it's just like bang, 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 bang. Same thing with a powerlifting meet. If there could be some way to like make it more of a like not just a spectator event, but a spectacle in general, then it's like now we have a spectator sport. And maybe not every competition should be like that, but if the one like American Pro or the Open, whatever the fuck, every year, that's the one where the guys go to, great, cool. Then we put it on TV, make a bunch of money. I don't know.
I think head to head could be important. You know, like the bar weight starts at X amount of weight, and people get to choose like when they want to start. You know, so the bar starts at like, I don't know, 600 pounds, and if you want, because you squat a lot more than that, you can just wait. And you can, you know, but then you would have a lot of people actually going like head to head. Like you saw 5 people try 600. One guy clearly made it. You're like, okay, that guy's ahead. Next guy clearly misses it. You haven't, and then it goes up 50 pounds or something like that.
Dude, that's didn't we have this conversation?
It needs something where people can recognize what the hell's going on.
See, and people in the comments, like, tell me if this is a great idea, because I think this is a great idea. But like the last man squatting event or last man benching event, like it's there's 10 guys, like the 10 best squatters in the world or whatever, like 220 and up. And it's like bar weight starts at 500. Then everybody can choose, like, are we jumping a plate? Are we jumping a quarter? Who's okay with a plate? Everybody raises their hands. Okay, they do it again. Who's okay with a plate? Only like 6 guys raise their hands, but 4 guys want a quarter. Okay, sorry, you got outvoted. You got to do a fucking plate. hang on or get out, you know? And you just keep going like that and then incrementally increase. And as you keep taking attempts until it's the last man squatting or benching or deadlifting. I think it's more of an exhibition event, but if there was some way to make those like intermingled with the actual competitions or like an actual, like maybe as an intermission or like an interim competition.
Could be great. And then you get down to the last maybe 2 or 4 people, and now you get to pick specific weights.
Yeah, yes.
But now you're into like the teeth of it, and like it would be hard to have to make 8 attempts.
Yeah,
like you gotta make 8 attempts to fucking beat this other guy. That would be hard.
It brings a whole nother aspect to the whole thing.
You might have to be in shape because the conditioning, like maybe the round robin, it starts to fucking shrink down and you have less rest.
Yep. It's like like how some people at like a competition, you have to take a fourth attempt and you only get like 3 minutes to rest. Same way, like I can't imagine getting to a point where it's like me, Jordan Wong and Chad Benson or something all in the 220s going back and forth. And it's like, I've already hit like 700, 720, 740, 760, 780. Oof. And then it's like, okay, like, am I good for 805? They want 800, but if I go 805, I win. And I'm like, I got to go 805, you know, it's it's like a greater athletic demand. So I think
strategically, like you're allowed to use like your say like knee wraps, but like you wouldn't want to use them on all your attempts, right? You would have to, and then if you got your knees wrapped once and then had to come back again quickly,
in 2 minutes,
you would be dying.
Yeah,
it would be so hard.
Exactly.
Brutal.
So I think
there's ways to make it fun. I think
something like that and doing stuff like that, even if it is like a sanctioned competition or just some type of exhibition event, I think that could like lend a lot of power to like the whole spectator aspect of powerlifting. So
does Rogue Fitness, they do anything with powerlifting? I know they did strongman and stuff, and they've seemed like invested pretty good in that.
Not really, but I'd be curious to like talk to them as to like why they wouldn't, especially after they bought out Ghost. Do you know Ghost? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like acquired them this past like year.
Oh yeah, it's equipment manufacturer.
Yeah. And Ghost was like huge in the powerlifting world. They blew up super quick and then got out just as quick because Tim Gristle, the owner, like he did what he wanted to achieve and then was like, I'm okay. You know, he's a friend of mine, but like I'd be curious to see like if Rogue would ever be interested in anything like that because I can't imagine with how big just strength sports are getting in general and how like integrated fitness is into the general population. I can't imagine they'd not want to be. So
we did touch upon how much information is out there. There's a lot of good information. What do you guys think is maybe missing in the strength community or missing in powerlifting? What do you think some of the powerlifters are missing at the moment?
I would say just kind of going back to what I said earlier, assessing your own biology and saying like, hey, where do I lack, right? Like what like things do I need in order to be strong, right? Whether that's like, maybe I need more lactase resistance, right? It's like whenever you're taking a heavy 1 rep max, you're going to have a little bit of hypoxia, right? And it's like, what if you don't have the ability to resist that and you just can't grind through a lift? You know, if you really suck at that, it's like, well, and maybe you have plenty of creatine, phosphates, and you can store those really well. It's like, well, you know, let's just not worry about your creatine, you know, phosphates and whatnot, and let's really focus on your lactase resistance or whatnot. But being able to assess, like, where am I lacking, and then being able to move forward from there that's probably what I would say.
How do people assess some of that? Because so I'm sure a lot of people don't know what you're talking about.
So that's kind of what I was gonna say. Is like, one, this is where it's like me kind of selling it a little bit more. This is why we're writing a book. But it's like this is the point where it's like, okay, someone needs a little bit more lactase resistance. They're really good at utilizing their creatine phosphate. That's just like, what is creatine, what is like that energy system leaning into? That's someone who's really, really explosive. The guy who hits the hole in the squat, comes up, and every single rep looks exactly the same speed until they don't. And then he comes up and just stops and dies. Mm-hmm. That's that guy. The person, if he's really, really good at that explosive power, how do you lean into the thing that he's not exactly good at? It's like that lactase resistance. That's give the person more opportunity to train in a hypoxic state, training in a glycolytic state where they have to like use that secondary and third energy system where it's not just explosive power. They develop and like advance this ability to contract through that strain. So it's like giving someone more repetitions, giving someone a lot of repetitions on short rest with banded close grip, that particular
or some
thing.
like extreme tempo or something.
Yes, anything where it's like you have to maintain this position and maintain this motor unit recruitment through an extended range of motion through an extended period of time. Mm. So that's just understanding like what the stuff Jake is saying means, dumbed down to like the meathead version where it's literally like, what are you good at? Are you an explosive lifter? Are you a technically proficient lifter who can grind really well? Are you someone who can do a lot of reps? Are you someone who struggles with repetitions? Someone who is like better at lower repetitions? How efficient are you at utilizing your own musculature and your own build? And identifying those things and then understanding, if I am good at this and this and this, I will probably need to work on this and this in my training to help like make my strength stronger, but bring my weaknesses up to match my strength. Because you said it yourself, strength is never a weakness. You don't want to take away that explosive power from someone who's explosive, but if you can give them an additional like fortification or ability to contract through, like continue to contract through that initial explosion, then you're just going to set them up for greater success down the line.
Yep, I think that's kind of what's wrong with like the way we view research, the way we view drugs or protocols in general is like no one, I shouldn't say no one. I think the big thing that we're missing is we don't know. We're just kind of randomly using drugs. It's like, hey, this worked for somebody, and we're building our whole like research or our protocols based on like what worked rather than coming back to the laws of biology. It's like, hey, you know, if you can analyze and say like, hey, you know, maybe at a meet, like you have like even different people at a meet. It's like I'm the kind of guy. It's like I wake up at 5:30. I'm gonna be go until like 9 p.m. and I never really struggle to have like these little, you know, energy gaps throughout the day. But you have some people. It's like you get super pumped and they almost kind of like blow their load and squat, and then you know like deadlift comes around. It's like, man, I'm just like I'm really tired, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, so you know, how do you fix that? It's like what protocols can we implement? How can we even change your nutrition? Because in that case, it's like, well, maybe you wake up that day, you do some, you know, some MCTs, and you kind of have like a low fat, you know, breakfast, do some PBO, and you're purposely keeping that heart rate really nice and low. And then, you know, right before you come, you do your, do a little bit of, you know, carbohydrates, do some meditation when you get there. So you're not just getting this massive, you know, sympathetic response just by showing up. And then, you know, right when you're done with squats, it's like, cool, let's kind of get you outside, let's get you away from all of this, let's make sure we're not just keep dumping all, you know. But point is, it's like if you can learn how to analyze your fault and be honest about it too, right? Like that's where you're really going to make the right progress. Because even if you put in the wrong protocol, like you know, you think you have this this issue, if you can correctly identify the issue, even if you give the wrong protocol, you can always come back because it's just a science experiment at that point. My hypothesis is that I'll get better at lactase resistance if I implement this, right? And you can always come back to that and say, okay, you know, I still know I'm bad at lactase resistance, so it must have been the protocol, right? But it's always, you always got to come back to the laws of biology, not, hey, I did this and it worked, but I don't know why it worked. It just worked. And then you try to do that and more, and then the next time you're like, well, that didn't work, so maybe I'll try more again. It's like we kind of got to, you know, step back from that. And the same with like training too. It's like we can't just keep doing the same thing with training.
Yep, I was gonna say, like, because this is the whole basis of what you're saying is people understanding that even though you may be like bad at something and like I'm an explosive lifter, I can't grind. It doesn't mean that you can't grind. If you literally like look at just the laws of training, there's one of the rules, the specific adaptations to impose demand, the SAID principle. If your body is going to adapt to the specific stimulus that you demand from it. So if you make yourself contract through hypoxia more, like develop an ability to grind and supplement yourself with like the diet, training protocols, whatever surrounding it to like feed into that adaptation, your body will adapt. Like we were talking about the energy systems. People think we resign ourselves to like this is just how it is. This is my little vacuum. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm going to hang out with. And that's not necessarily exactly what it is, because if I went back in time and told Mark Bell, who was squatting great, like more than 1,000 pounds on a regular basis, if I said, hey, you're going to run a marathon, you'd look at me and be like, you're fucking high. What are you talking about? You know, but here you are because you approached the training in the manner that you did and you demanded particular responses from your body, and they may not have always been right, but you've known that you could change it and you could do it. So every time you've gone back to the drawing board and been like, okay, the training maybe was a little off. The stimulus was a little bit off. Let's just do it this way. And now you're looking at completing a marathon in 2 weeks. So, yeah.
It's interesting to hear you guys break some of this stuff down, and then for me to have these thoughts in my head of like people that I've seen train in the past. And it's so common to do what you're good at. It's so common to be like, hey, I'm good at this, you know, and you just kind of always lean into that. That's where you're comfortable. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if you're trying to be that next level person, then I think you do need to evaluate, where am I weak, you know, and how do I bring these weaknesses up? And also with my strengths, how do I make them flourish even more? Like there's no reason you can't still examine those. But thinking of guys like Donnie Thompson, some of these people are so intuitive. Donnie Thompson, he was a power lifter for many, many years, and I think he squatted like 1,300 pounds or something wild like that.
First man to total 3,000 pounds.
Yeah, he was unbelievable, and he's really smart with all kinds of stuff. He kind of created a lot of things. Like, he didn't create body tempering necessarily, but he gave a lot of attention to it, and a lot of the stuff that you see a lot of people doing with wrapping their their leg with a band
Voodoo.
and stuff. Yeah, voodoo flossing and stuff like that. He was doing these things years and years and years ago. But what he would do on his dynamic effort day, where we would do like box squats and things like that, Donnie would do kettlebell front squats in between the sets. And he's a big man. I mean, see him on the screen right here. He's like every bit of like 350 or something like that. And to watch him work and do that at Super Training, he did it at our gym in the middle of the summer in Sacramento. I mean, this guy could move like you wouldn't believe, and his conditioning was awesome. He did set after set. So he's doing dynamic effort squats with no belt, using 5 plates, and in between that, he's doing kettlebell front squats.
Yeah.
And it was just like, holy shit. But, he was getting to his weak points. He was like, my conditioning is kind of my weak point. He's like, I'm plenty strong. I'm plenty explosive. It's not really something I need to hone in on a ton. He's like, I just need to be in better condition. And by the time the contest runs around, I'm going to be in good enough shape to be able to pull off a pretty big deadlift at the end of the meet.
Which makes a lot of sense, right? Because like, if you want to be able to express the strength that you actually have, you need to be able to be in a rested state, right? Like, in between these 3 attempts, like, you take your opener, you take your second, you have to be able to get your control of your respirations and control of your heart rate. You have to bring them back to a comfortable spot where you can actually start recycling these creatine phosphates again. And you're never going to be able to max out in a glycolytic state, right? Like, if you're still huffing and puffing or still shallow breathing, never got a chance to get these creatine phosphates back, right? It's like, you didn't really express your full strength. And if you can't do that, it's like, you do need to work on your aerobic work. It's not like you have to be ready to go run a marathon or something, but we do need to be able to train those systems, or you won't ever be able to actually express that strength.
So doing aerobic work, what are some ways you guys help people do this? But then also, what are the passive things that you have people pay attention to? Like you mentioned, you pay attention to your breathing after you speak so that you're not, doing that. So what do you guys do actively and passively to help people learn how to calm that down?
Oh, it's a really good question. I think a really good way that's kind of like pretty flawless is go do some really, really hard sprints on an assault bike and try to get your heart, like, get your breathing under control as quickly as you can, right? It's like, go from really, really hard to maybe just even hop off, go to some walking and force yourself to nasal breathe, right? It's like, get control of that breathing. There are plenty of ways you can pretty much get as creative as you want, but.
And you said PBO earlier. Like, I'm not sure a lot of people know what PBO is, but.
Oh yeah. Parasympathetic, meaning like calm, being able to passively, what I guess the actual definition would be able, like, passively moving methyl groups without some kind of sympathetic ligand support. But basically, like, without needing to rely on your sympathetic nervous system, you can beta oxidize fatty acids. You need to be able to do that. If you can't do that, you're already in a hole.
And that's basically like getting yourself into a more relaxed state, even while you are being active in some way. Like what you gave me, like when we first started working together, it's like because it was obviously unique to me because like I had all of the nerve issues going on, but I would spend a huge amount of time on the assault bike, getting my heart rate incredibly high, and then making it a point to get off and just nasal breathe and bring my heart rate back down immediately. And like a lot of PBO walking is what he called it, where it was like, and what I give to people now, it's parasympathetic beta oxidative walking, where you're essentially just walking as at a quick enough pace to like make yourself breathe hard, but forcing yourself to control your respirations and control your nervous system. It's like, the way that I've described it to people is like it's active meditation, even though if it's not mindfulness or not meditation, but you're forcibly controlling your nervous system and controlling your arousal state by nasal breathing, even when you're exerting yourself in some manner. So just that type of control, and then the regulation of it, just being able to bring yourself back down.
How long have you been thinking about this, both of you guys, and like what has the transition been like for you now as an athlete?
So I didn't like, I had this stuff in my mind prior to 2020 where it's like I need my conditioning to be better, but it was just like I didn't understand the biology behind it or like how to actually implement it. So that's why I'm so thankful for Jake and like his like mentorship and just his friendship, like teaching me how to do that. Cause it's not just for me. I have 60 clients. Like I've given this to all of the people that I work with. And there's a reason I have such a high client retention rate and I have such great success with my people because they're all, it works. But I just didn't really know how to apply it. And the biggest change for me as an athlete at this point is the fact that I feel like an athlete again because I can control my heart rate. I can control my respirations. And at this, at the meet that I did a week ago, it's like I'd do my squat. And like I said, I'd have to like lay down and be like, holy fuck, I'm going to die. Like I need to bring myself back down. I'm like, I can't, oh my God. But now, even after that world record, I hit it and I could immediately be like, all right, I did it. Just bring myself back down. And it's like just having a better HRV, honestly, and a better control and a sense for my own like arousal state. And then knowing that that's something that I struggle with or something that can be developed. So even on meet day, like I would listen to 432 hertz like white noise music just to bring myself back down. And even after, this super unique to me, but I went and got cryotherapy done after my squat attempt. We drove to a cryo spot, got it done real quick, and came back on the same day just to make sure that I stayed not at that level of arousal all day. So
Wow.
just stuff like that. It's like thinking outside the box that I never would have before, but obviously it's paid off dividends. So not just in my athletic performance, but in like my life and my health and my mental health. And I feel great. So yeah.
I know we've thrown out the word meditation multiple times during the episode, but like sometimes when you mention those things, some people are like, oh yeah, meditation. Okay, well, let's go to the other stuff. But how big of a deal do you think that application would be for a lifter?
Huge. Yeah.
Monumental.
It's like such a low hanging fruit. It's honestly just for like general population. It's probably one of the best things a lot of people could implement. And it's not like you have to, sit, on the carpet and like meditate the traditional way. It's like it can literally be so many different things, right? It's like, but the idea is like we have to be mindful of our acute situation and be able to like kind of block these things out, right? Like we want to be distracted. There are like, did you guys ever? What was that Disney movie where they had the all the people in your head and they had the emotions? You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
What
It
was
had
that
joy
called?
and anger.
Yep, joy, anger. Those are kind of like, it's one of the best ones.
It's a really good one.
Look it up. It is good.
Disney?
Type in
Yeah,
Disney
It's a
emotion
Pixar. It's a
movie.
Pixar.
It had Bing Bong.
Oh yeah,
You remember Bing Bong?
Yeah.
The red guy with the flame
Yeah.
above his
Tiara
head.
would be so mad if I
Yeah,
forgot
no,
that
I
movie
know.
right now. I can't remember. I can't.
It's not.
Type in Pixar.
Inside Out.
Inside Out.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
I was like, we're not moving on until
Yeah.
we did that.
So
Great fucking movie.
you can almost
Never
like,
seen it.
almost
It's
What's wrong with
I
that?
hadn't
Watch
seen it. Yeah, I could not figure out the reference at all.
Dude, go watch it. It's
I'm
really good.
down
wrong
to
for
check it
that.
out.
Yeah,
It's
it's
called,
good.
if my son watches it, shit, dude, then it's anything better than fucking monster trucks on YouTube. I'm down.
Yeah, it's a great one. But you can almost think of like if you've seen that movie, you have all these like emotions fighting for the attention is what the movie is, right? It's like one gets to kind of control, but that's kind of like the cortices of your brain, right? They're all trying to like fight for this microphone of like, hey, I want to be the one that gets to make the decisions, right? Whether it's like, your interior singlet or whether it's like your amygdala or whatever. Everyone's trying to fight for attention. We're just sitting here like, like, oh, this, oh, that, I'm mad, I'm whatever. It's like being able to control that and give the attention to, like your prefrontal cortex or whatever, and just, I'm here, I'm present. Thanks for
Yes.
Yep, that's it. It's a great movie. Definitely, I'd say top 3 Disney movie of all time.
Wow.
Just it had a lot of good stuff in there. It was really well thought out.
Yeah.
Did you cry during it?
No, I'm not much of a crier.
I did. I definitely
You
did.
cried during Inside Out?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to say when because it'll ruin the movie. But
How did I miss this?
It's a great one.
Dude,
it's absolutely phenomenal.
I won't cry like in life, but like movies, it's like they kill me.
I
They
cried
ruin
during
me.
Toy Story 3.
Yeah.
Dude.
The volcano scene.
Coco? You ever see Coco?
Oh,
that
dude.
killed me.
Every single time.
Coco's
my
brutal.
God.
You still haven't watched that? Oh, you did?
yeah.
Brutal. Oh, Coco is so good.
The whole last 30 minutes, I'm like,
Yeah, it's so good, dog.
Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, that's the idea of meditation. It's like it can be done in so many ways, and it's so helpful. It's being able to, come to the moment. It can be just as simple as like rub your fingers together and just like pay attention to the way it feels, right? Like that's the only thing you want to pay attention to is like, how does this feel? It's like just pick one of the 5 senses, right? And just pay attention to it. It's like how does the grass feel on my legs right now? Just
Try
pay
to last
attention
30
it.
seconds doing that. You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
tough. It can be tough.
Yeah, it really
Your
is.
brain just goes boop right to something else right away, and you're like, fuck.
It really is that hard. It's like just pay attention to the way things smell. Go through the senses a few times, but be present at what's happening. It plays massive dividends. It's probably one of the. It sounds so silly, but if you want to be able to perform more, you need to learn how to do that.
Do you guys have certain habits over like your phone and stuff? Just because like when you talk about this, there are so many ways we want to be stimulated in different ways. Like you'll be watching something on your phone, then you'll have something else on the TV, and you won't realize how often you're constantly doing multiple things. So do you guys have habits around these things?
Like habits to avoid doing that.
Avoid, or do you pay attention to that at all?
Yeah, that's something I pretty actively do. Yeah, I'm not really much of a TV person. And I'm like Joe will tell you, I'm really not much of a phone person either. Like I really like to stay away from stuff. What I am is I'll be writing things down all the time. I'm like writing things down because I get all these random thoughts. But I do. Yeah, I always try to make sure I'm being present at least whatever I'm trying to do. Like if wife comes in and she's talking to me, I try to like stop, like be completely present with what I'm doing. No,
Why is she yelling at me now? What did I do? What I do today?
it's probably more like, hey, what thing does she want to buy right now? But yeah, just trying to stay very present at what you're doing, right? Like, I think a lot of people get frustrated because they have so many things to do. And instead of just like, okay, let's go down the list one at a time, it's like, I'm going to try to like 1/10 do all of these at the same time. And it's like, well, I didn't get anything done. It's like, you just got to be able to go through one at a time. Trying to do multiple things at once isn't, really going to get you very far.
Yeah. And for me, like Jake's much less of a phone person than I am. And it's like, I've just kind of like, I had previously gotten to the habit of like being the guy where it's on Instagram. And it's like, this is my entertainment or TikTok or whatever. But I'm consciously, I think about it and I try to limit myself to like one source of information at a time. But just knowing that it's still a thing that I struggle with, my phone is always on Do Not Disturb, except for Jake, his wife, my parents, and Bree. And that's it.
In that order too.
Sure, yes. but basically, like, it's always on Do Not Disturb, so I'm not tempted to pick it up. And then I put timers for my apps on my phone because it's like, it's just too easy for me to like smoke some weed at night and just kind of be like, oh, fucking, what's going on, But I have like a 30-minute timer for Instagram, and it's like all of my client communication is on WhatsApp, and it's like Jake said, like portioning off, like this is the thing to hit here, this is the task, this is the task, this is the task, and kind of portioning it out so that I'm spending this particular amount of time on Instagram, this particular amount of time or energy, like to go through my texts, which is like my personal life, and then to go through my WhatsApp, which is like, this is client work. Then I can allocate certain hours of the day or energy towards that client work. Yeah. And it's just like one by one by one by one. So
Power Project family, your normal shoes are making you weak. This is why you partner with Vivo Barefoot Shoes, because they have a wide toe box, they're flat, and they're flexible. So with every single step you're taking, if you're taking a 10-minute walk outside, or when you're working out in the gym, your feet are able to do what they're supposed to do in this shoe. They have tons of options for hiking, running, training in the gym, chilling and relaxing, casual shoes for if you're out on a date. You need to check them out. And Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at vivobarefoot.com/powerproject, and you guys will receive 15% off your order automatically. Again, vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
What you got brewing over there, Andrew?
Dude, a lot of stuff. But real quick, Joe, you had mentioned that like at some point you'd want to have kids. There's a lot of people that had abused PEDs that can't have kids now. Do you guys have like a protocol or a plan for when that day comes?
I have no idea. I would ask that guy because I'd probably if I were to do something like that, because I, truth be told, I haven't like gotten any like fertility testing or anything. But it's also like Bree and I have also talked about adopting. So it's just it's also an option there, just because like it's. I mean, I don't want to get too into like the socioeconomic or just like societal stuff in general, but it's like there's. I personally, just based on my own like beliefs, it's hard for me to justify like bringing another person into the world when there's like so many people that like don't have people, and if we could like help someone like that, it's like, why not do that? So I don't know.
Yeah, well, Jake, I mean, is there a protocol that you would recommend?
Off the top of my head, it's kind of just back to what I feel like I keep saying. It's like it depends on the person, because there's a lot of things that can cause infertility, even for people who haven't been on PEDs, and it can be like ROSs, reactive oxidative species. It can be like all sorts of issues. So I think the first thing would be like we got to take an assessment of this person and figure out like why are we not fertile. But off the single protocol, no, not particularly. I think it would just kind of depend.
Okay, because it just perked my ears, because I'm just thinking like maybe somebody else listening would be interested in hearing that stuff. But anyway, for the Nectar L-carnitine and that sort of thing, I'm sorry, I guess that has the L-carnitine already inside of it. And I know it's going to be probably person dependent, but as far as like dosages, because like the bottle is, I think, 30 milliliters, and it's I forgot how many milligrams per milliliter. What is an effective dose that somebody can start with to where they might be able to feel something?
Oh, that's a good question. So with the Nectar, it's 300 milligrams of carnitine and 200 milligrams of choline. Again, just kind of depends on the person. But if you've never tried anything like that, I would probably start with like half a cc, half of a milliliter, and then go from there. Try it, before some heavier lifting would be a really good chance to use it. A little bit before, like even studying. Like whenever I have to do a lot of work, and I really have to like get my brain going, my go-to is always a milliliter of Nectar, like 10 milligrams of Noopept, and maybe like 100 milligrams of caffeine, and that works every single time.
And then with Noopept, I want to say I tried that one like in a nasal like administration thing, like where I like inhaled it. Are you talking about like injectable Noopept? Or?
No, oral.
Okay.
Yep.
We talked about that last podcast. I remember.
Really? Okay.
You took it and you like had to do something with your car.
Yeah, no, I helped some random dude on the on the road, and I was like, I would never do that.
I remember.
Like, that was weird. But that's why I was like, holy shit, they're talking about this and that. And then Joe, you had mentioned like you could take this and then kind of not have any side effects. Can you take it like too many days in a row then? Like
the biggest, so this is
with carnitine. I mean,
this is something that I learned from Jake. The biggest outcome that you're going to have if you take too much is you're going to have diarrhea.
You're gonna poop yourself.
You're just gonna have bad poops.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know what is that. It's just like increased.
Oh, it's like whenever you have to whenever you have to poop, you have a lot of carnitine that's involved in that through just moving that out.
Okay.
So
how about before jiu-jitsu?
I think that would be a great time to use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's got me interested.
And it's just like it goes back to like what we were talking about, because it's like if you understand like what it's doing, then like the timing and the dosages would make sense, because it's like usually dose like half a cc to a full cc, easy, But then it's like if you want to use it, if you're looking for like the fat burning effects, like in the morning before some fasted cardio, absolutely. If you're looking for some like the exercise effects, like doing it pre-workout, sure. You could even some people take it like around, like we were talking about. Did we mention this, like around deflux meals or like free meals?
Yeah, you could actually use carnitine like post meals, more for nutritional like fates.
Yeah, stuff like that. So
Growth hormone pre-meal?
Post.
Oh,
just kidding. You know what? To be honest, like, no, I'm not gonna say this here.
I was gonna say growth hormone like pre-meal though can help. Like if you're just eating like whatever, like if it's a cheat meal, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get into. But
if
you ever
save it for the bonus episode.
Right.
Don't do this.
I won't. No, I won't go far into it. We'll just keep it really simple. But like a little bit of growth hormone, it's kind of the ultimate way to ensure you're not going to store body fat, right? Like if you have it's that's
A couple people just swerved off the road trying to write it down.
Yeah.
Just because it like causes lipolysis immediately when you
You know,
take it.
especially if you took a product. So it's Andy's old product. It's called Max Uptake, but it has a little bit of glycerol monosteroid, which is a really cool ingredient to have if you're a drug addict at all. Like if you like drugs and feeling high glycerol
Shut the fuck
monosteroid.
up.
Wait, is this legit?
Yes, because it makes the absorption of like anything you take happen quicker.
So basically, glycerol monosteroid activates what's called CYP enzymes. Are you familiar with CYPs?
Nope.
So basically, whenever there's drug metabolism, the CYPs are what do the work. They're kind of like this king, the top of the hierarchy of like all your enzymes. Well, that's the way I like to think about it anyway, because they're the ones that aren't necessarily like, I guess, necessary, right? So it's kind of like libido. It's like one of the first things to go when you're like, you know, not keeping up with recovery and whatnot. So if you ever like take a little bit of glycerol monosteroid and then take said psychoactive drug, it's going to kick in a lot harder.
Wow.
But anyway, if you did Max Uptake, which has glycerol monosteroid, it has some chromium, some berberine, some black pepper fruit extract, which is just like piperine. It's just a leaving group. I think that's it. I might be missing one or two there.
I think that's it.
But take that before a deflux with a little growth hormone. And by deflux, I mean like, you know, cheat meal. It's kind of your best way to make sure you're not storing, you know.
Deflux is like dopamine fluxing meal. So it's like the free meal where you don't really care about the macronutrients. It's like, this is just going to make me happy and alleviate psychological stress of dieting.
The cool part of it actually is well, do you want to get in? I'll get into it. I think it's cool.
Go. Yeah.
So basically, you have dopamine, and the way it's broken down is what's important, right? So you have what's called catechol O-methyltransferase, and that's one of the ways it can be broken down.
Obviously.
So, COMT for short. So when you thank you, but when it goes through this COMT, and enzymes, they act in microseconds. You can turn them on and off in microseconds, right? When it's COMT, it becomes a more adrenaline-like constituent. Whereas this is where you kind of feel like motivated, a little bit amped up, a little bit sweaty. This is where you're lifting hard and whatnot. But when you don't have the methyl donors or the demethylations to be able to keep up on this enzyme, it basically gets worn out. And this is where like you start to feel like you've ever had those days where like maybe you had this like really fun day, and next day you wake up and you're like, you know, like little nauseated and just like a little like, oh, I just feel like that kind of hangover-ish feeling.
Like the kind of headache that's not a headache, but it's like kind of
I just feel like gross. It's like now dopamine's being broken down via these other ways. Now you're getting maybe like some ethylamines and some whatever, maybe some PEDs or something. And so this deflux meal is actually to provide these like things that you need to be able to restore these enzymes so that we're now fluxing, actually breaking down dopamine, you know, the way that you would ideally want to. It's kind of like if you ever have a lifter too who like they love to lift. They just love to lift, and all of a sudden there's one day like, dude, the worst thing in the world sounds like going to the gym. It's like that's when you know that little enzyme is just like it's been worn out and you just can't quite keep up with, you know, basically demethylizing these little enzymes.
It's
Okay.
It's what just personal anecdote again, but it's why like my free meals aren't like a refeed where it's like, oh, we focus on carbohydrates. It's like do something that you are going to enjoy. Find something that you are going to really enjoy and like deflux with, because it's so regenerative to like the shit going on in your brain, which sets you up for better performance, better like psychology related to the entire thing like down the road. It's not so much about the nutrients themselves, it's about the brain chemistry that you get from it.
The pleasure.
Yep. Literally just the fat and the carbohydrates from it are kind of what's actually paying that. But it does make sense. We also have like a G-flux, which is like more of a typical refeed.
Like refeed,
it's like,
yeah.
it's filling all that.
Glycogen flux. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what do you guys do anything specific around sleep habits or take anything around sleep? Because we talk about that all the time, but is there anything extra you have people do or you think is important for people to do?
I'm huge on nighttime routines. So like Joe was already saying, like I'm really big onto journaling. It's like when you're done for the day, do some journaling. I love to go outside, do some like, see, literally just, it sounds silly, but go see the stars and the moon.
Yeah.
Do a little bit of some nasal breathing. And a little bit of journaling goes a long way. So the last thing you want is to be in bed and be like, oh man, this is the thing I got to do today. I can't forget that. It's like, hey, it's already written down. So what I actually do is like, I'll write down the things I need to do, how important it is that I do it tomorrow, and then how difficult it'll be. And I rank them on, a number scale.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of at peace, right? So like, oh, these are things I have to do. It's done. I've acknowledged them. And now I can, kind of take that stress off. And then as far as like things you could take, like I really like ashwagandha. I'm really big, especially Shodan ashwagandha. I think it's a really cool one.
Is that a type or a brand?
Oh, it's just a specific type.
Specific type. Okay.
Yeah.
There's like KSM 66 and then Shodan.
Yeah,
Shodan,
right. KSM would be great too. It's not that important, but KSM's awesome. And that's just kind of blunting the glucocorticoids from being produced. Like the things that glucocorticoids are just things that are gonna, like cortisol, that are just gonna break down things that are basically not glucose and turn them into glucose, right? Like amino acids or whatever. So we're making sure you're shutting that down. Maybe like a little bit of CBD or maybe some CBN, and but most of it I think should be done through like some mindfulness and through some habits. Like the same way that you would treat going to the gym, where it's like I always do these things when I go to the gym. It's like that's what you should do at nighttime, right? It's like I always do these things
because you set yourself up for success in the gym, but people don't really think about setting themselves up for success when they talk about like the restorative aspect.
Yeah, you can't just take like a THC gummy and wait till it kicks in and then work your way up to bed.
Yeah. Do you guys pay any attention to light at all? Is that something that you use blockers, whatever? Do you?
I like to just turn off like the overheads and just kind of make it like a dimmer setting, right? But yeah, I'm a big fan of it.
I do that, and I also have these are blue light blocking lenses, but I actually have like red tinted prescription lenses because they're prescription. It's not, I don't just wear these, but like I have red tinted ones that I wear in the evening usually just to like. Not just because it's not just for me, and like we've talked about it before, it's not just about like blocking blue light. It's just like getting dimmer light in general, and like a little darker, just to like signal like, hey, it's time to wind down and chill. So yeah, and I like to get really cold before I go to bed.
Yeah, getting cool is a really good one.
I have this. It's one of those like Thera Ice like migraine cap things where you can like pull it down over your eyes, and just whenever I lay down, I like just pull it over my head and just kind of like get my head really cold, and then it's like, okay, I'm falling asleep.
Did you have to stretch it out for a few weeks when you first got it?
Yeah, it was a little snug at
big
first.
head joke. But honestly, like that's a great way to meditate. Is like if you force yourself to cover your eyes, that's a great way to meditate. It's like you can't look at anything, you can't be on your phone, you can't be distracted. It's like it's probably one of the best ways for modern society to do that.
Yeah, because people, and that like going back to the whole meditation thing, I've talked to different people and they're like, oh, I meditate in a different way than you do. I don't like just sit here, and it's like, well, relaxation isn't meditation. Like doing something that you enjoy isn't necessarily like the mindfulness that you're needing to do, because people think like, oh, I'm relaxing, I'm on my phone, I'm relaxing, I'm doing this task, I'm doing this such and such. It's like no, you're distracting yourself. Like when being present and like be like shutting off a sense where it's like you can't see, it forces you to like be present in that moment because you can't seek out that external distraction anywhere else. So
Anything else, Andrew?
No, that's it, man. Yeah.
I did want to ask about this. We'll come up again, but you mentioned the THC gummies, right? A lot of people smoke weed.
I thought you were going to ask about LSD.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that later. But when it does come to like weed, is there things that like people, because a lot of people nowadays smoke a lot to try to fall asleep. It's become super normal, and it's not that it's bad. But is there things that people need to pay attention to when trying to use that at night? Does it affect sleep negatively, positively for some people? What are your thoughts?
It's just like anything. It's like anything in moderation, right? Like you don't want to have to need anything to be able to fall asleep, right? You don't want to have to. If you have to take cannabis to fall asleep, it's a red flag, right? If you do it, once in a while, yeah, you might block a little bit of like REM sleep and whatnot, but it's not the end of the world, right?
Okay.
But it's like use it in moderation. Absolutely, I would just lean more into the CBD and the CBN aspects of things and take the psychoactive effects of this THC out of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and same thing. Just because like I got into a habit over like the past, like not recently. It's been like 6 months, but like previous to that, I was doing like an edible or two every day, and it was like it was just what I did to relax, but then you get to the point where it's like you're actually like blunting some of the restorative aspect of sleep and rest and like being in a parasympathetic state. And like THC to a degree is like stimulatory, even though it is like as a whole relaxing, it is going to cause, it's psychoactive, so it's going to cause the heart rate to spike slightly. And it's not, even if you feel relaxed, like we were talking about, there's a difference between like mental relaxation and actual like physiological relaxation.
Yeah, it's not like an actual depressant.
Yeah. So it's just like knowing why you're using it and when you're using it and when it's appropriate and when it isn't. Because like I just competed and I've taken a couple edibles since the meet, but like going into the, like, it's just not a habit. And I'll still like, I smoke, but it's not like I'm getting ripped every day. It's just like when I want to like start to wind down or I'm done with my work, I'll hit my pen a little bit, smoke a bowl, whatever, and then just hang out, you know, but that's it. So.
Okay.
Both of your ladies are in prep, right? For they're both competing in something coming up, right? How's that been?
Pretty good. Yeah. Kiara, my wife, she's competing this Saturday at the Jay Cutler Desert Classic. Be our first show. And then it's been a pretty fun prep.
It's Kiara's first prep too, so she's getting good exposure to the bodybuilding world just because it's like Jake's coaching her and he knows so much and it's so different than anybody else. Because I know if she could have potentially gone with some different coaches and there was recommendations of like T3 and Clen like immediately in Anavar, and it's like what you've put on like however much lean body mass over the course of like 6 months and lost like 8% body fat with the use of like damn near zero anabolics. So
yeah, so she started her prep 14, 16 weeks ago. She started at 164 pounds, and she's competing this week and she's 159. So it's like her weight didn't go down. She built a lot of freaking tissue. It's really cool. And that
was the use with less anabolics.
Yep. I mean, we barely touched anything. We had like about 12 weeks out. We used a little bit of some NPP at like a 10 milligram dose. Ran it for 2 weeks. Called it, and then implemented on non-training days a really low dose of D-ball, and it like a 2 to 5 milligrams of D-ball. Yeah, and we're pretty freaking sick. But I mean, typical is typical is kind of like leaning into Anavar, which I think is kind of a trash bodybuilding drug for women going into wellness, especially. It's like it's a DHT. It's like we don't need these hard superficial tissues. But yeah, I mean, we just used growth hormone, insulin, and like this carnitine nectar and glutathione, and worked out really well. But it's all about just like, what physiological process am I kicking off here, and how can I ride the momentum of it, right? It's like, how do I build the things that I want to build?
Yeah. And Bree is either like 10 weeks out or like 14 weeks out, just depending on which show she wants to do. She's kind of like, we were talking this morning because she originally was planning on doing one in June 17th or something around there. But she's just kind of like, I don't want to have a timeline because it's her second season and she did really, really well. She got 4th at USA's last year, but she just wants to like bring a better package. So she's like, I don't want to have a timeline with it. I just want to do it when I'm ready.
Smart.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. And that's kind of how she's approaching it. And Jake's coaching her, obviously. So like they're doing it very differently than what she had done in the past, but she's still holding on to a lot of her strength because she's planning on getting right back into powerlifting after. And that's one of the reasons this prep is so atypical from any other bodybuilding prep, because Bree has, and I don't want to speak for her, but like she's not lost a huge amount of weight, but she's gotten considerably leaner, and like all of her biomarkers are like improving. Her HRV is up, her heart rate is down. Everything, she's setting herself up for like the easiest route of fat loss to occur when the actual pedal gets pressed down, and just kind of like delaying that pedal pressing as long as possible. Because like we were talking about with the water cut, you like want to hit the ground and bounce. You want to like get into where you need to be and then get immediately out of it so that she can set herself up for the best powerlifting performance, because she's got 4th at USA's in the women's physique category last year, but then like 12 14, 16 weeks after, I can't remember, she hit a 1388 total.
And a 606 deadlift.
Yeah, and a 606 deadlift. Like,
and again with like no androgens.
Yeah, what? I think she was on like 3 milligrams of test probe.
Yeah, that was
like that's it.
Legitimately
just as a truly an HRT dose.
Yeah.
And that was after her last bodybuilding season. So she's weighing 167, and she's planning to do, if she's ready, the American Pro, the same one that I'm doing next year, and hopefully put more on top of that. But if it needs to be a later one, she's planning to get back into it too. So hopefully get a pro card and then some cool powerlifting performances this year. But we'll see.
Yeah, we got some cool things coming on. I think it's, like both of our partners are killing it.
Yeah.
What do their diets look like?
So believe it or not, Kiara is still at about 200 grams of carbs on her trading days. She's still eating a lot. She's on her non-trading days, those carbohydrates go down. You know, I think off the top of my head, it's something like about 90 to 100 a day, but still eating a pretty considerable amount. And then, you know, I guess like in a nutshell, it's like, you know, first and last meals don't really have a ton of carbohydrates. The carbohydrates are kind of peri-workout. I mean, I'm a really big fan of having intra-workout carbs via this like HBCDs, these highly branched cyclic dextrins. It's just like the, you know, really easy to get into your bloodstream source of carbs. And yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And same with Bree, like, because he's obviously running her diet as well, and they just modified it a little bit to like kind of lean into the fat loss avenue a little bit. So I'm interested to see how that's going to affect her in what, like, that change happened like a couple of days ago. So like 2 weeks from now, probably going to be like looking at like the high 160s, low 170s. So it's going to be interesting. But same thing, peri-workout carbs. Like Bree eats a lot of, or had been eating a lot of red meat just for like the like oxygen, like the hemoglobin in her blood. Yeah. Just to like bump up her like O2 sat and stuff. But stuff like that.
Yeah, hers will be a little bit different because Bree is obviously, you know, very strong. She's a phenomenal power. Like in my opinion, like probably one of the craziest genetics I've seen for a female powerlifter ever. So you obviously have to take a different approach than someone like, you know, Kiara, who's in there obviously in, you know, two different. She's going physique and Kiara's going wellness. So I have a little bit of a different approach there, but we'll kind of lean into some actually almost like no carb days for Bree and some fasted training. Well, Kiara, it's like we just got to keep her full.
You guys are writing a book together?
Yeah. Yep.
Plus Andy.
And Andy too. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah.
Who's comes out shit?
Yeah. Who's behind?
Who's
ahead? Who's got like some of their pages written and who's like got to start?
I think I'm probably leading the pack.
You're pretty much done. Like
I'm a
yeah.
Joe's like, I'm starting soon.
I have stuff. I have ideas.
I got it in my head.
Organize it. Yeah. It's
fist bump.
Yeah.
For that.
Right. I know how you work.
I recognize that. Yeah.
And it was really like my whole thing is because like I'm like Jake and Andy are up here. Obviously this is an audio medium, but I'm putting my hand really, really high. But like you guys are like up to a certain level, and I'm like, I'm not at that level of intellect. I'm at that level of explanation, but it's like I'm a little bit lower. But like my feedback or like my contribution to the book is a lot more like of the athletic anecdote and like being able to explain it to like, I don't want to say layperson, but like the people that are going to buy the book, the audience who's going to read it. So as like we do that when we talk, but I kind of needed their outlines first, and then I'm going to formulate my build off of it. And I know, like, I have some of my stuff written.
I like where you're going. Like, they got to get their shit done first, so you can react to it.
Seriously, that's what it is. You know,
let's go, Jake.
I'm all for it.
I'm the voice box, bro. But that's it. So, yeah, it should be like what we're looking at, like May or June.
Yeah,
I'm
thinking about May is what we're looking at.
Yeah. So.
I'm the type though that, man, I get an idea and then it's like, cool, I'm not sleeping for the next 3 days, so I'm working on this thing.
When he sent me his like outline first, he was like, here, I'm going to send some stuff to run by, and I'm thinking it's going to be like a page or like a note, and it's like a giant fucking document, and I'm like, is this how far we're supposed to be? Because I'm not like, oh shit, fuck, okay. Yeah, but it was good. It's all great stuff, but yeah, it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
Andrew, take us on out of here, buddy.
Alrighty, thank you everybody for checking out today's episode. Please drop those comments down below. There's tons of stuff to talk about, so let's hear what you guys have to say.
Hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow the podcast at MB Power Project all over the place. My Instagram is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where you at?
And we'll pop up their prior podcast here, so you guys will be able to see that. But at Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, at Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Discord's down below. Joe Jake, where can people find you guys? And then the supplement company and all that good stuff.
I am Joe Sullivan _AOD on Instagram. My website is theaodcollective.com. It stands for Adapt or Die because obviously there's a lot of perseverance and continuing to just keep going even when things are stacked against you. And eventually you do fucking win because I just hit a 62-pound total PR and I'm pumped up about it. So that's where you can find me. We're coming out with the book. We're doing all this stuff. Jake, do your shit.
Jake at JakeB_43. We have our Better Through Biology line, which is, betterthroughbiology.com. Do have an Instagram there too. It's just better.through.biology.
Use code Sully10 for money off your order.
And then that next supplement line we're coming out with, it's going to be called Euphoria. And it's actually got a cool little Y surrounded because we're, solving for X.
Yeah.
Cool, huh?
As long as you know what it means.
Yeah, it's all that matters.
Wait, what's the point of that supplement, Euphoria?
So that's going to be...
That's a supplement line.
Oh, that's the line.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I thought it was a specific one. Okay.
Yep, so that's the one it's just going to have... It's going to be more, just like powders and tablets or capsules or whatever. So, yep.
And don't reach out to him on Instagram. Book him through a call. He has a Calendly in his thing. Don't send him messages.
Yeah, if you DM me, it's
Not going to happen. You know a little something about Kratom, and you said you were potentially making a product, I think, with Kratom. What are the positives and what are some of the negatives? What are some things that people should look out for?
So with Kratom, I think the biggest thing you have to think about is a mostly GABAergic drug. And there's some really cool things that Kratom can do. It can absolutely be used as a PED. It can absolutely be used. Man, there's so many ways to use something like Kratom. Because like a lot of times, just it can be helpful to actually be a little bit relaxing. It can be helpful, before a gym session. It can do a lot of things. But what I think should be known is with a GABAergic drug, it's going to follow a curve. What kind of looks like a bell curve, where if you take a small amount, it will be fairly relaxing. If you take a moderate amount, it's probably going to feel a little bit stimulating. If you take a very large amount, again, it's going to kind of go and become like more of a sedating style thing. So use it accordingly, right? Like if you need to relax, just use a little bit. Maybe something like 100 to ish mgs of Kratom or something like that. If you want it to be stimulating, you want to go to the gym and you kind of want to alter this like limbic system interaction. Maybe go a little bit more. Maybe go into like that 500 to a gram even for Kratom, and you're going to get like a little bit of a stimulatory effect and probably be able to do things like hydrolyze more ATP at once than you could have before. So it can actually be a really, really cool PED in that sense. A lot of cool ways to use it.
Negatives?
I mean, I think like anything, it's just should only use it in moderation, right? Like if you need it, like if you love that psychoactive effect, and you need it now to be able to do something, probably going too far. But other than that, can't really think of too many negatives unless you took so much that you got constipated from it.
That's a thing.
Yeah, you can get constipated from too much Kratom. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning a product that's going to have Kratom, Noopept, and a couple other things in there, right?
Yep, we'll have a couple different products. The one with Kratom is going to have actually a little bit of KSM, ashwagandha, and some more kind of more like relaxing things. It'll be called Zen, and that's going to be the thing that you can take and just kind of settle on down. So that will only have something like 75 mgs of Kratom, just a very small amount, and kind of using some other things to potentiate that effect.
I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.